easier it is to sell souls.
There is a new price on freedom, so buy into it while supplies last. Changes need to be made. No more curbside baggage. 7 p.m. curfew. Racial profiling will continue with less bitching. We've unified over who to kill, so until I find more relevant scripture to quote, remember, our God is bigger, stronger, smarter, and much wealthier. So wave those flags with pride, especially the white part.
We're selling addictive 24-hour candlelight vigils in TVs. Freedom will be defended at the cost of civil liberties. The viewers are glued to television screens, stuck, cause lots of things seem too sick. I use opportunities to pluck heartstrings for theme music. I show you which culture to pump your...
We're back.
We are back. It's been more than a week. It's
More
been
than a week. Been 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Took last week off. Needed it.
Yeah.
Last week was too much shit happened last week. There was too much shit going on outside of this.
Yeah. I get
It was a
it.
busy week. It was a busy week. Did too much. Went too hard.
Fair enough. Life was
Didn't
life.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are back, and yesterday was an auspicious date.
Was that the 100 day?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was.
Yesterday was the end of the first 100 days
Yeah.
of the second Donald John Trump administration.
Yep. And we're
And
gonna
this is sort
do
of
a retrospective.
a
I guess?
retrospective. This is kind of a special episode, doing things a little differently.
Want to get into the news first while we're at it?
I don't even remember what news happened this week.
Yeah. Well, that's just
What
it.
did,
That's what we
did
do.
happen this week?
All right. So let's see. Mike Waltz is being out as a national security advisor. However, they're floating him for a replacement UN ambassador. So he's being fired because of Signalgate, because his
So
massive national security breach.
So they're going to promote him,
Yeah,
essentially. Cool.
Basically, they're taking him out of a highly sensitive role and putting him in a slightly less highly sensitive but way more diplomatically important role.
I am impressed
reasons.
Hegseth is still
Yeah.
hanging on at this point, because it feels like everybody except for Trump understands it's time for him to go.
Right.
Like this just feels like it must be like a weird, like, Trump feels he is personally beneficial to him in some way. I don't know, maybe he's got specific dirt on him or something. That's like specific leverage he has. Like, I know he doesn't experience loyalty like normal people do.
No, but
Like, everything he does is transactional. So I'm just wondering what the transaction is that makes him still more beneficial to Trump in the role than ousting him.
if it's not leverage, it's got to be because the guy is dumb and loyal, right? Like
He will do whatever he's told.
yeah, he does exactly what he's told. He will always back the administration, even after the administration has admitted they're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, even when they admit the screw up, he doubles down on the original lie for them. So, which, their whole flood the zone strategy, he's great for that because he's an idiot mouthpiece who doesn't care what the truth is.
I mean, he wasn't even good enough for weekday Fox and Friends at Fox News. He was the habitually drunken weekend guy.
Yeah, he was in the weekend morning show.
They
he
could
showed
trust
up
him
drunk.
They could trust him to show up for work twice a week if they filmed early enough that he was still out drinking from the night before and hadn't gone to bed yet.
Yeah.
That he floated. That was like 7-8 years. He just did that.
Showed up after the bar every Saturday and Sunday morning.
I remember seeing old videos of like him doing office tours where he was showing off all the liquor in his office at Fox News.
Oh, God.
It's like not even trying to pretend he's anything but like a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
Fucking
Let's see.
insanity. Every single Republican on the House Judiciary Committee yesterday voted down an amendment that would have prevented U.S. tax dollars from being used to fund ICE efforts to deport American citizens.
Wow.
Yeah. Every Republican in the House Judiciary Committee. Now, a lot of people have been saying that every Republican voted for it. This was not a full House vote.
Okay.
This was just in the Judiciary Committee, but it was still a unanimous
They all
vote amongst
want-
the Republicans.
They all want resources to go to deporting you and me for some reason. I don't know why. Let's see. We got, federal Texas judge strikes down Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans. Another judge striking
We're
it
not
down.
at war with Venezuela.
No.
Like, that's an important part of I don't like the Alien Enemies Act in general.
Right, but it has some specific language.
Yeah, you have to be. We're not at war with Venezuela. We're
Right.
not at war with anyone right now.
Yeah, this is...
We're not at war. Like, we engage in military operations around the world for various
Right.
corporate interests and foreign ally interests, but we are not at declared war with anyone in the world.
And none of the, other areas where it may apply would be agents of a foreign government.
Right.
Right? Operating illegally within the United States. Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And those would usually also fall under other laws, though.
Right. They're usually spies.
Espionage laws.
Espionage. This makes no sense. We're not at war with them. They're not an invading army. They're not a paramilitary organization operating as a quasi-government like ISIL.
Tren
right?
de Agua is a criminal gang.
Yeah, that is it. They don't hold territory within Venezuela. Like,
it would be like us. It would be like us deporting Italians to a death camp in El Salvador because the mafia existed in the 60s and 70s. Like, Goodfellas is the reason why we have to deport all the Italians. Have you seen The Godfather?
Right.
Like,
this is on the same level.
It's as stupid.
And they're not...
But more racist, but as stupid.
Yeah, and they're not alien enemies. You idiots. Let's see. The Ukraine mineral deal is shaping up to be terrible.
There's the shock.
Yeah, and Ukraine is not happy with it, but they look like they might be willing to cave because we're bullies.
Because we're bullies.
Yeah, we're bullies.
We're bullies, and we're threatening them with like a genuine existential threat.
Right.
Like, not protecting them from an existential threat, losing the entire country, or we can get their sweet, sweet minerals.
Speaking of bullies, I did catch some of that interview. Ooh, boy.
Oh, yeah, the 100 Days interview.
The 100 Days interview with ABC. The part about Abrego Garcia was particularly shocking because it's a twofer. He doubles down on being entirely mistaken over the tattoo.
Yeah.
Right, and not believing it's Photoshop.
Like, which is amazing.
Essentially threatens the journalist.
Yeah.
Like, you're being given your big break. Like, his tone shifts.
I've never heard of you.
Yeah.
I allowed this because I've never heard of you. Which
and
means
this is your big break.
I
And,
I haven't noticed you pissing me off before, so you're allowed to do this interview.
Right. And he was leaning in like he was like subtly threatening him. And then he basically just asked him to lie and agree with him.
Yeah.
Right. The other interesting part about it, though, the major tell in that segment was that the interviewer says that you have the power of the presidency. You could pick up the phone and call the president of Venezuela and put an end to this. And Trump admits that he could, but he would only do that if he was a good guy. So he's basically just went on national television and said that I'm defying the Supreme Court because I'm just leaving it to my lawyers and they're going to play games, right? But he just admitted that he could pick up the phone.
It also largely became apparent, looking at the number of things that he couldn't answer because he genuinely didn't know the answer to. Donald Trump is not the president of the United States in terms of like actually doing the job.
No, I don't think anybody's really in charge.
The presidency at this point is basically split largely between Stephen Miller and Russell Vought.
Yeah,
they are co-presidents. With unelected co-presidents.
With Elon having way too much influence and power still, even though he's gotten quiet over the last couple of weeks because obviously all the bad press, his Doge is still running around doing stuff, right?
Although,
it's just mostly stymied by the courts.
They have amended their targets down from 2 trillion to 150 billion in savings.
Which, did you see that despite the billions in cuts that they've just slashed at Doge, somehow we spent $200 billion more than we should have in the first quarter. Like,
Well, one of the things that
100
they
days.
forgot,
Like-
especially when you have like a large bureaucracy, is that firing people costs money too.
yeah.
It's not a free thing. Like there's a process you have to go through, especially when you're going to be facing court challenges. Like that all costs money.
Right. But analysts don't entirely know where all the money's gone. It's fascinating.
I think we can guess some of the places it might have gone.
Right. That's, you know.
Oh, one thing we haven't talked about since our last one. Did we talk about the Doge whistleblower at the NLRB?
No.
So this was happened in the last 2 weeks. So this whistleblower who was at the NLRB when Doge came in was talking about how Doge employees, who are all like less than 26, they're all like young adults to full-on teenagers, were creating their own login accounts for sensitive systems at the NLRB.
Okay.
And then they were turning off IP blocking that would disallow traffic into those systems from outside of the United States.
Yes.
And then the logins that they had just created were used to log in from IP addresses in Russia.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. We didn't talk about it on the show. You and I talked about it in person. I'm really curious as to how much of that is happening in other agencies. And
I don't see why it wouldn't be happening in every single agency Doge has been in.
yeah, and I don't know, like, I mean, we can speculate.
Doge also apparently managed to get access to all of our sensitive nuclear data, nuclear energy and nuclear armament data. Doge had like unfettered access to that apparently.
Wow.
Which means Russia
Has unfettered access.
might well have unfettered access to all of the nuclear secrets of the largest military superpower on the face of the earth in the history of the world.
This is not. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
What else has happened? Oh, the Oklahoma City incident.
Which one
The
was that?
Oklahoma City ice incident.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
this woman had moved from Maryland to Oklahoma City with her 3 children a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Her husband was still in Maryland because he's finishing up his work there before he moved out with the family. They wanted to leave Maryland for Oklahoma City to have a quieter, calmer life.
That'll show them.
It's a rainy night when the door is battering rammed open by 20 armed ICE agents who don't identify themselves. Ransack the house, drag the woman and her 3 young daughters out into the rain in their underwear, and then confiscate all of the cash, which included their entire life savings because they were moving and hadn't set up a new bank account yet in Oklahoma City, and all of the electronics. So they have no money, they have no means of communication, they have nothing. And they were told that, well, you might get it back in a couple days, it might take a couple months.
Yeah. They were U.S. citizens, right? And
Natural-born U.S. citizens.
They were at the wrong house, or somebody else had been at that house at some point.
They were looking for the people who had previously rented the house.
Yeah, that's
who had been gone for at least 2 weeks because they had lived there 2 weeks. So there's no way they should have been able to get an actual warrant for a no-knock raid. They couldn't show probable cause
right. Why
for a no-knock raid unless it's just really fucking easy to get a warrant for a no-knock raid in Oklahoma, which
probably
knowing Oklahoma, it probably is.
And knowing ICE probably at this rate because they consider.
I mean, this was also.
They also, even if they didn't have the warrant, they probably had the administrative warrant. They're flying around and don't care what the law says.
After that deranged memo Pam Bondi put out that said ICE can enter anyone's house without probable cause or a warrant to search for migrants whenever they feel like.
Yeah.
Which, no, they can't.
They can't. No,
they can't. And if ICE tries to force their way into your home without a warrant, nothing you do to them is immoral.
Remember Castle Doctrine, my friends.
Yeah, like it's probably you'll fight it. You'll have to fight it, but it'll probably turn out to not be illegal either.
You know, in common law, Castle Doctrine actually came about in regards to a case with agents of the British government.
Yeah,
like it was an attempt to arrest people in their home that somebody used self-defense. And it used to be the law of the land in most states, where Wisconsin was like one of the last states to get rid of this off their books. But used to have to, if you happen to shoot a police officer that was attempting to arrest you in your home, they had to convict you of the underlying offense that they were trying to arrest you for before they could charge you with murder.
Right.
Because otherwise they were just trying to kidnap you.
And the way the laws, the way the stand your ground laws are written in Florida, I could probably chase ICE agents out of my home and hunt them down in the streets and get away with it.
Yeah, but in Florida we have all these special exceptions for law enforcement, like all these extra enhancements for if you bother law enforcement in any way, shape, or form, or even if they're trying to murder you. Let's say an off-duty cop is trying to hunt you for sport and you kill them. I think Florida law would basically make it like a death penalty case for you. So
also, there's also the problem is like
I hope we test this.
There is a lot of circumstantial evidence that a lot of these ICE agents that are conducting these raids, especially the ones where they're rounding up people off the street, black bagging them and throwing them into unmarked vans, aren't actual employees of ICE.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation and a lot of evidence that they are basically using quasi-deputized bounty hunters.
Oh, Lord. Oh, speaking of ICE, did you hear locally a woman died in ICE detention here in Florida?
No.
Yeah, that happened recently.
I know
in the last couple of days.
I know they did separate a woman from her infant who was breastfeeding to take her away.
That's wonderful.
Ripped the child from her as it was breastfeeding.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I say amazing in the worst possible sense. It's appalling, but here we are. All right, other pieces of news, because ICE, I could go on about ICE forever, but
they are the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. God, they're evil. Trump says that any country that buys oil from Iran will not be allowed to do business with the U.S. because that's going to be great. The more we normalize relations with Iran, the weaker their religious government is, and the stronger their secular government is. Hands down,
and it's always
shown
been that way
every time.
It's every single
The better their economy is, the weaker the Ayatollah is.
That's everywhere. Like every single country, people in the world are less prone to fanaticism when they feel economically prosperous.
Yeah.
You don't become a belligerent authoritarian weirdo when you feel like you have economic stability.
Exactly. And
you just don't.
Even here in the U.S., our weird rightward shift, it's like dominant classes losing privilege, right? Things aren't as great as they used to be as far as the ability to just take care of the basics, right?
Yeah.
And with that, affluent upper middle class white people in the suburbs started feeling like their country was under attack, and they started shifting towards fascism.
Yeah.
Right? And it happened in Weimar. It's happening throughout Western Europe.
It's an annoying, repeating trend.
Yeah. That comfortable people, when they feel less comfortable, become more extreme.
Yeah.
And when people become more comfortable, they become less extreme. It's just
how
right.
It's just how it is.
It's one of the reasons why the most okay with the status quo people in the United States are, well-educated liberals in urban areas, right? Because for them, things are very comfortable. And
when the cost of living goes up on average, it doesn't go up as much in places where it was already higher.
Right.
It's in your rural areas with, longer supply chains.
Yeah, or up-and-coming cities
yeah, where you see, those spikes. That spike doesn't hurt in New York or L.A. or San Francisco as much as it does
it's incremental to them, and it's,
It's an annoyance. It was already expensive. It's just slightly more expensive instead of going from affordable to expensive, which is a huge sticker shock.
5% inflation when you have housing prices 150% over the national average, right, is nothing.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, my groceries are slightly more expensive, but I'm already paying $4,000 a month in rent for a shoebox.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it doesn't hit the same way. Also, cities, because of supply chains, you're right. They get more supplies. They have a larger economy
And you
of
can
scale.
also,
you know,
you can also like adjust more easily. Like if you're in a major city and you find that a cost has gone up and you can't afford it, it's really easy for you to find an alternative and make adjustments and not actually impact your standard of living that much. If you're
throw out a little bit less.
if you're in rural middle of nowhere and you have one grocery store in your fucking town and you don't have any options and prices go up, you are stuck with that. You have to accept that. You have to deal with that.
A lot of times they have the one grocery store and the one like general store like gas station, like a Casey's or whatever brand you have locally, which is, you know, the prices at that local Quickie Mart are a bit higher than the average. And it's probably also the best place to get a pizza in town, weirdly enough.
Yeah. Almost always.
Almost always.
Fried chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken.
Oh, God. The fried chicken you can get at, like, the weird gas station store in, like, rural areas.
I found really good fried chicken at a weird gas station store between, like, Clearwater and Largo the other day. Like, it was in...
Really?
I never go down this route. It was like a couple weeks back, and I was going down this road, and I was like, oh, fried chicken. Let me stop. I stopped for gas, and I was like... Let me try this. This place looks like it has good fried chicken. And they did. It was really good.
The best potato wedges I've ever had in my life came from one of the dumpier little corner stores in my 1,500-person hometown. Of course. I have not had potato wedges that good since. Like, I don't know what they were doing. They were simple potato wedges, but they're the most delicious potato wedges I've ever had in my entire life.
Of course, my palate is weird because I love trash-ass food.
Yeah.
And then I also like really good things. I don't like middling food. Like, weirdly enough, I don't like mid-grade, like middle-of-the-road food. I like it to be either really good
or absolute
garbage.
I mean, that's
like,
fair.
I have a penchant for my like guiltiest of pleasures is the roller grill hot dog. I love them.
It's satisfying.
I know.
It's just satisfying.
Like, and I love a good hot dog. Give me Vienna beef. It's my favorite. But if I'm out and about and I'm hungry, roller grill hot dog from pretty much any gas station.
Yeah, for me, because of where I grew up, it was always the Lancaster beef.
Ah, yeah.
Fuck, they were good.
So,
they were girthier. They were a girthy dog.
Nice. Get
Good
that girthy
feel in
sausage
your mouth. Like, it really filled the bun. It was girthy enough to really fill the bun. It wasn't these little...
We like little girthy around here, if you know what I'm saying. It's got to fill the bun.
It's got to fill the bun. You got to fill the bun.
So, let's see. We got the 6-day ICE operation in Florida that's resulted in more than 1,000 arrests.
It's the largest operation so far, right?
Yep. Yeah, because they had been terrible. Like ICE arrests and deportations were way down. Like, which I'm not really going to complain about, except that in the inverse of what Biden was doing, right? Where, again, I don't like Biden and Obama's immigration policies. I thought that they were still too draconian.
I mean, I'll be honest, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. The last time I didn't hate an immigration policy in this country was when Reagan gave everybody amnesty.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Yeah, our last episode was on open borders, so we talked about that.
I fucking hate Ronald Reagan. I liked that.
I didn't love their policies, but there is a big distinction between one, following due process, right, and not. That's massive. That is game-changing, world-altering, structure-imploding differences.
I am still having that argument with people.
It's so
That's
stupid.
insane. And then always like, what about Jan 6 protesters? They didn't get due process. Like, well, I mean, the whole thing that they were arrested and then given attorneys and then put on trial and then either acquitted or convicted is definitionally what due process is.
Leading all the way to them getting pardons, for fuck's sake. That's like so much due process.
They always bring up the example of this
Supreme
one guy.
Court cases about them.
They always bring up the example of this one dude who kept stalling his court date. He kept having his lawyers stall his hearing.
Right.
And he was just sitting in like the Metro jail for like 18 months because he just kept stalling. And he was doing that because he expected to get pardoned. And then he was.
Wow.
He used the system to never have a conviction.
Yep. Now they blame, obviously, they're like, well, he spent all that time in jail. It's like, well, yeah, but the system. The prosecutors wanted to get the case done. Like, you know.
And if I recall,
they want to get that shit off their books. The judges want that shit off their fucking dockets.
If I recall, he was not somebody who was going to get a long sentence.
Probably not. Very few of them were.
I mean, there was that. I know there was that one guy who like was so excited because he got pardoned and he didn't have to serve his 45-day prison sentence.
Yeah. It's sad. But yeah, they've been targeting, the Obama and Biden administrations mostly targeted people who had actually broken laws, committed crimes, right?
Right, and they also...
Or, you know, had their amnesty hearings and were denied. You know,
and
basically...
They also, you know, Obama had created things like DACA.
Yep.
For, you know, people who could be deported legally, but they were going to like not do it specifically for those people
because in all other ways they were quote unquote model citizens,
and they were they were kids who were brought here as they're like 5 years old.
Exactly.
They didn't have any say in that.
No.
Most of them didn't remember their home country.
Yeah, I have friends who are DACA recipients who are still here under DACA and they don't know what is going to happen to them, and I worry for them because they could just get, because that's the other thing is that the Trump administration is targeting all the people who are here in some fashion kind of legally, or are like they're DACA recipients, or they have a green card.
Yeah,
or,
that's like they were using tax records to target undocumented workers who had actually been paying into the system.
Yeah, the ones that had applied through that, like there's another program for them to get documented.
Get an employee ID, so they pay into taxes and Social Security.
So they weren't breaking the law while they were here, pending the rest of their legal system, the rest of the immigration system.
And it would be a positive mark on their record when it did come time to see if they were going to be deported. It's like, well, they went through this legal part of the process to try to be a good potential citizen.
Those are the people that the Trump administration is targeting. It's not the dangerous criminals. It's not people with convictions. It is.
No, you notice that they didn't. The first thing that they could have gotten away with looking at the federal prison system, and said, okay, who here that we've convicted and put in prison
is not a citizen.
And they could have easily gotten away with deporting those people, and they could have gotten away with deporting those people to CCOT without anybody complaining too much.
Yeah.
Certainly you wouldn't have had mainstream Democrats up in arms about it.
Like, there would have been, the ACLU still would have been up in arms, etc.
I still would have been up in arms.
But most people, the average American would have
been like, what? They broke the law. They got arrested.
Yeah, they're in federal prison, and people think immediately federal prison is always terrible people.
We just don't have to house them in our prisons anymore. They're in someone else's prison.
Yeah.
This is especially when like housing a federal prisoner costs what, like 70, 80 grand a year?
Yeah. And
we're saving money sending them to CCOT for $25K.
Yep, $50K off the top. Yeah. Boom, done. Send them.
You'd have been able to sell it. That's the thing that most impresses me about this administration, and we'll get into this more when we get into the 100 days. They are so incompetent, it makes it harder for them to achieve the goals they want to achieve. They are not able to break things as much as they could because they're so bad at even breaking things in a coherent, competent way.
The only thing I think of, because I don't think Trump plays 4D chess, but I mean, again, I think that Stephen Miller and the guys at the Heritage Foundation, etc., right?
Yeah.
They're not all morons.
Stephen Miller is very intelligent.
Yes. So,
literal demon, but very intelligent.
I think that on the one hand, their ideological wrath blinds them mildly, right?
That's specifically in Stephen Miller's case. Yep. He's so racist, all he can see.
Yep, and their ideological blinders and their belief that they're going to be right and win at all costs blinds them a little bit.
Right.
But on the other hand, the thing that balances that out in the way that scares me is that all of this seems to be actually a attempt to break everything they possibly can as much as they can and see what the courts and the legislature will stop. What are the absolute limits, right? And they're pushing, like, it's so incompetent it seems bad, but we're 100 days in, right? Not 2 years, not 3 years. We're 100 days in, and all of this has happened so far. My theory on it is that they want all the court fights as soon as possible, right? That they want the Supreme Court to hear all of the cases as soon as possible, right? And then once the decisions are finalized, like once they have all of that, they will know what they can and can't get away with from that point forward. And And they'll even know what orders they can defy because the court lets them. Right?
And I could see that being.
Gives them
I could
outs.
see that being like a like specific strategy on their part that they're engaging in, but like they're also so incompetent. Like I think they're more incompetent than they expected.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's not mutually exclusive, right? They're incompetent people who are evil, but they have some competent people playing in the mix who are crafting their strategy. Right? And they don't need to be competent. Because, again, the Nazis weren't competent. Most members of the Nazi Party were idiots, but...
Oh, they were fucking dumb.
But, Joseph Goebbels wasn't, right?
No.
Himmler wasn't incompetent, right?
Insane.
He was insane,
and
right?
a fucking weirdo.
But Hitler was crazy and incompetent and had a bunch of other absolute lunatic loyalists, right? But there were smart people involved in the process. And they succeeded by the idiots just doing the idiot things that the smart people wanted them to do.
Right.
And that's what it feels like to me, which is why it scares the shit out of me. Because, it's a good news, bad news. We have this democratic system that may push back and beat them, right? But at the same time, it looks like they're testing all the contours. And these 100 days, when we go through it, we're going to see all those different ways.
I am wondering... Now that his polling numbers are underwater across the board on all issues, even immigration, which he was still like incoherently and irrationally strong on until like 2 weeks ago, right? He's underwater on that. I'm wondering at which point Republicans in the House who are not in deep red districts, who won fairly competitive purple districts, are going to start looking at the polling numbers and be like, if I want to keep my job, maybe I can't just slavishly devote myself to this because it's unpopular.
Speaking of, actually, another piece of news that is just like, it's always like, I'm amazed at how like they always wind up hurting their own voters or their own like red states, and dumb things. Trump shut down a program to end human waste backing into Alabama homes, calling it illegal DEI.
I mean, fuck.
A program to stop shit from flowing back into people's houses because of...
Fucking Arkansas got decimated by tornadoes, and he's like, nope, no federal help for you.
Yeah, made Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was a loyal soldier for him before.
Like, she was like in consideration for like cabinet positions.
Yeah.
Like,
and last term, a loyal soldier for him.
One of his most loyal.
Yep. And just like, you know what? Fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
You don't get nothing. Why? Because the people of Arkansas, well, do they really deserve FEMA aid?
And you know what?
Do they?
They'll still vote for Republicans anyway.
Yeah.
That's the calculation. It's like we can do whatever we want to these people, even though they're our constituents, because we are incapable of losing them as constituents.
Yeah. You know what's really a sad inverse is that there's some polling out of Alabama right now, right? That Democrats' support is plummeting because they don't think the Democrats are doing enough to fight Trump. Right?
All they have to do is have good optics. Like
I know.
They can't do anything. They just have to be seen to be like speaking out.
I know. And like Whitmer and Michigan doing that bullshit.
Her political career is over.
Yeah.
It's done.
I am not buying the excuses. Well, Michigan's going to be one of the worst hit by these trade policies. So, she needs some federal funding and she needs, Trump to, be on her side for a few things. No. I don't buy it. Even if that's her calculation, it's a bad calculation because from the inverse, the Trump administration likes that she's doing this because it sidelines her and hurts her with her base, right? And they've now just neutralized her. Congrats. You sucked up to the administration to get what you need money-wise that you're probably going to get denied, right?
Right.
You're still going to get fucked in this trade war. You may get some help, but in exchange, you now look like a traitor to your base. And
Yeah, her political. I mean, I'm sure she had political aspirations beyond being the governor. They're done.
No,
They're done.
Like Newsom has better excuses, right? California is in a much bigger position and need federal funding and help, and the trade war is going to devastate California ports. There are so many state and federal programs, and as far as roads and railway go, etc. Right? That and they even need the administration to be at least somewhat workable with them, right? And even then, nobody's forgiving Newsom, right?
No, well, I mean, he would get away with a lot more of it if he didn't start a podcast where his first 2 episodes were telling Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon what good special boys they were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
how they're so smart on so many things. I can't believe how much we have in common.
Yeah. Fuck you, Gavin.
Fuck you, Gavin. Fuck you.
You know what?
You know who I don't hate?
Who don't you hate?
Pritzker.
I don't hate
Pritzker. He's been out there. He's almost called for violence.
Yeah.
He's come very close to just being like, you need to kill these motherfuckers. Somebody's got to do it right now.
Oh, did you see the motherfucker that there was the fight over the oversight committee and they forced AOC off, right? They would not let her on. Yeah, Connolly.
He had
75 years old and
retire.
He's retiring because of his cancer coming back, which was known. It was a known possibility 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Right? His cancer was not in a great... it was one of those, apparently everybody knew that this was a possibility.
Yeah.
And they still had the fight sidelining AOC.
It was his turn.
Fuck turns.
He'd waited. It was his turn.
No. You Democrats, fuck you and your whole turn-based bullshit. There's no...
I have...
This whole fucking... What is the term? Tenure.
Seniority.
Seniority.
Yeah.
Seniority doesn't exist.
Not in this kind of politics. No.
I'm a big fan of meritocracy when it's real, right?
This ain't it.
This ain't it.
Now, I have seen some calls and some speculation that there's going to be a big push. I don't know if it'll be successful to replace him as the ranking member with one of the junior members, Jasmine Crockett, which... She's not going to take any shit.
No, she's not.
She does not take shit.
I want Jasmine Crockett and AOC. I want the ones that are younger and capable of fighting to actually take more positions of leadership. Hakeem Jeffries is not the man for this moment at all.
What are we supposed to do?
He's still doing that. He's talking about immigration as a distraction. When it is Trump's polling is the worst on the Abrego Garcia case.
Yeah.
Right? Tariffs and his handling of Ukraine. Right? 3 things that mainstream Democrats are just ignoring.
Yeah. One of the things that blows me away about the Democratic Party in general, and this has been particularly true for the last 10, 15 years, is they seem to have forgotten that they can shape a narrative. And if they want an issue to be important, they can make it important to their base.
Yeah.
They just don't try. They always say, it's well, this doesn't poll well. It's well, then you fucking change opinion.
Right. And
well, we can't, if we try to make life even moderately comfortable for trans people, it doesn't poll well. Just fucking call out the bullshit.
What amazes me about that is that on issues that do poll well, but they don't that's when they suddenly magically, because again, Abrego Garcia, the mainstream leadership of the Democratic Party are calling it a distraction, and it is Trump's most underwater position.
Yeah.
Right? That specific case.
Because it's unambiguously immoral and illegal.
Right. Unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Against statute.
And evil.
And ignoring the courts.
It's
a constitutional crisis happening in front of us.
It's the fucking holy trinity of things dropping in your lap that you want.
Yeah. And
as far as a fucking issue to run on.
And they don't like it. And they are not doing well on the tariff issues because they are talking in jargon and not in...
Nothing is infuriating more than in certain circumstances, tariffs can be good. No. No, don't say that. Never say that. I don't give a shit if you've got these fucking very specific niche examples of when a tariff has been beneficial. You just need to say no.
Like, here's the thing. I'm educated enough to understand that.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I don't need to be told that. Nobody who votes needs to be told that. The people who are highly engaged and overly obsessed with politics, economics, world affairs, right? We don't need you to educate us on the finer nuances of policy.
No.
Right? That is a thing that you Democrats just don't fucking get because you think everybody that you meet, everybody in the country, is the same type of people that goes to your fucking cocktail parties. Yeah, right?
The overwhelming majority of Americans, and I mean like 99.9%, are not hyper-fixated policy wonks.
Exactly. And that, like, 40% of the voter base that we're all kind of fighting over because they, no, it winds up being 6%, but really both parties kind of had that big glob of, like, normies, right?
Which, God, I don't understand those people.
But that big glob of normies that are like 40% of the U.S. population, they don't pay much attention to anything at all. They don't particularly care about the subtle differences between one policy and another, right? They like the black and white simple solutions. And Republicans recognize that about them. And they give them those simple paleogenetic narratives, right? Simple, here's your future, this bad, this good, the end, right? Whether or not they're lying doesn't matter. Democrats want to explain. They want to talk to everybody like it's the people in their class, their peer group, right? That they're at their cocktail parties. They're at the fucking conference with them.
When all you got to do is say, we're going to do this to help you. When they do this, it hurts you.
The end. Like,
the end.
I don't need you to sell me, because I will evaluate your policy and take my knowledge of basic economics and history and politics and apply analysis to it. The end. I can do that on my own. And if
you have to treat the average voter, and this is unfair and demeaning to say, you have to treat the average voter as if you're talking to a fucking 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And it's what the right does, and it's why they succeed.
Yeah. And you don't, like, here's the thing, is even smart, educated voters out there who are still kind of average, like, they still don't pay all that much attention to things, but, they're not dumb, right? The reason you talk to them like they're a 5-year-old is because they don't have the time.
And you're also giving them away
the care level.
No, they don't have the time. They don't have the care level. And you give them talking points that they can use for other people who are dumber than them.
Yeah, like if they get it, like because of your basic talking points, and they get it, they then can do what I do, which is look into it and explain further to people.
And I'll say this: if you can't take a complex issue and explain it to an average person so they can understand it in super broad terms.
Right.
Like, they don't have to know all the specifics. They don't have to know all the details. They don't have to see how the sausage is made. But, like, if you can't explain to them in broad terms why this is good and this is bad, I don't know that you fully understand the topic if you can't synthesize it down to a way that you can explain to an average person.
Right.
That's why fucking theory-obsessed leftists drive me insane.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't have a conversation with a normal person where they take theory and turn it into normal colloquial language and explain it to people who are never going to fucking read theory. They just yell at people to read theory. Nobody's going to read theory.
Yeah.
Reading theory is fucking painful.
It's painful. It's boring.
It's boring.
I've read Das Kapital. And
nauseatingly academic.
Yeah.
It's painful to read. It takes forever to get to the fucking point.
I liked Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations better.
You get these wild tangents that you realize aren't going a goddamn place.
Right.
But, like, the guy writing it had this one hyperfixation.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. You're talking about Das Kapital, like, God, you know so much about, like, the cost of a cord of linen.
Right?
It's like 5,000 pages about the cost of a cord of linen. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I live in 2025. The cost of a cord of linen in 1856 doesn't really have much of a fucking impact on my goddamn life.
It does not, no. And they could never have imagined, like, a world where intellectual and artistic and labor value and material costs all came together into like one product.
Yeah,
Right? Does that make sense? They could not have understood like that synthesis.
Can you imagine going back in time to talk to Marx and trying to explain to him how a financial service can become a commodity?
Yeah. Yeah, couldn't.
He would just shoot himself.
Right. But explaining the cell phone as we know it, right, where it's a combination of software, intellectual endeavor, right?
IP property.
Yep, IP property, art, aesthetic design, right? All of that going into it. So you have these like types of intangible labor, right? Going in on the one hand, but then you have material cost, right? Then you have automation putting parts of it together. Then you have human labor. Then you have the mining.
Global supply chains where you have to deal with the laws of 36 different nations.
Yeah.
With different economic systems.
And 36 is about right. The average cell phone is made in something like 31 countries.
Right. Like
right? The components, parts, software, etc. 31 countries put this together, right?
Like I can't remember if this is something we've talked about on the show or if it's only something that I've ranted about to you in person. But like and this is a little bit of a tangent about American leftists. When American leftists talk about like, how unfair the working conditions are at like the Foxconn plant in China or a textile factory in Vietnam. And they talk about it in terms of like Apple is evil because of the working conditions in the Foxconn factory.
We talked about this last week on the show. Yeah.
China determines its own labor laws.
Right. Like
Vietnam determines its own labor laws.
Like you can say what you want about capitalists and capital in general, which sure that you'll be right about the ethics and morality.
Every critique of capitalism is valid.
Yeah, but people are going to chase the lowest possible price for the best product they can get, regardless of whether or not they're a billionaire, a multi-billion-dollar company, or a person like you and me. Right? We're going to like naturally gravitate towards the best product at the lowest price. That's market equilibrium.
I mean, and that's been the case since before like modern capitalism even existed. When it was just mercantilism,
it's
just basic bartering system.
It goes back to it goes back 5,000 years.
You can go you can go back to like a barter system and like you're going to try to get as much as you can for as little in exchange.
Honestly, did you know there was never actually a barter system?
Yeah.
Like, never. Read Graeber's Debt, the First 5,000 Years, if you haven't. It's a great book. It's also dense, but he writes better than Marx.
Yeah. Money is a thing that we invented arbitrarily, but for a good reason.
Yeah, we did it. Basically, the state creates money, then creates taxation, then generates an economy by paying soldiers and or the state apparatus, which then goes into the economy buying stuff because those soldiers aren't like looting people anymore. They're now buying stuff. And those people then spend the coin that they get from soldiers, and it creates this feedback loop that creates an economy. Right? And now you have a currency, and it's all based around basically debt and taxation.
I hate to break this to people, but
it just is.
Until we reach the point technologically where we have like Star Trek style replicators that can just from the atom up create whatever we want in our home, markets are going to exist. And we will need some sort of means to exchange for goods. And the thing that makes the most sense is money.
Yeah, it's a unit of account, but that has to have some kind of a unit to compare against. And you really don't want to compare it against a gold standard. That's stupid.
No.
And
you can find more gold, and then your gold is worth less.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why. Like it's just, but if you compare it against the, what you balance it against is the productive capacity of the nation state that's printing the money. Right? How big is its military? How stable is its government? How functional is its banking system and its courts? How much can they manufacture? How many people do they have? How much food do they produce? Right?
Yeah.
You put all those things together, you have the value of the U.S. dollar, and it adjusts based on interest rates and taxation.
Yeah. And
that's simple.
Yeah.
And it's the best way we've figured out how to do it so far.
And even though
someday we may come up with something better.
Even though I don't think any of you are listening, any of you gold standard weirdos out there, I need you to understand we just arbitrarily decided gold was valuable too.
Right.
It's not like outside of our desire for it. It has an inherent intrinsic
Your
value.
brain short circuits because it's a tangible, shiny thing.
It's shiny, it doesn't charge it, and it's easy to like mold.
Yeah. So your
It's
brain
soft.
short circuits because it's a tangible, physical thing.
It was thousands of years before we even found out it was a good conductor.
Yeah. And now, because it has so many industrial applications, we really don't want to use it as a basis for money because
No, we need it for other
we
things.
need it for other things.
You know? There's all
Sorry.
sorts of weird shit, though. Like, we still value naturally occurring diamonds more than lab-grown diamonds, even though lab-grown diamonds are higher quality and, like, easy to make.
Yeah, the scarcity of it, and it's artificial.
Well, I mean,
there's some real scarcity because obviously you have to mine.
One criminal cartel controls the diamond industry. That's why they're not allowed in the U.S.
Yep.
They gotta launder everything through Israel and Russia.
Yep. But they still somehow have a massive, like, they own, what, 10, 20% of the diamond market in the world?
Fucking South Africans.
It's a large amount. But yeah, the artificial, there's real scarcity, but the artificial scarcity of the diamond industry creates its value, as does the selling points, right? It shows how much propaganda and marketing works.
That's why one of the things that I was proud
I used to sell the shit.
as the youngest, as someone who is as young as you can be and still be Gen X. That's why I was always proud of millennials, where they're like, fuck diamonds.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about diamonds. First of all, nearly every other one of our precious gemstones looks prettier.
Oh yeah, I love sapphires.
Like a sapphire or a ruby or an emerald, they are fucking gorgeous.
And honestly,
Diamonds might as well be fucking glass.
like the difference between a really pretty natural diamond and a lab grown diamond that's perfect, right, is so minuscule that they're basically the same, right? I love natural sapphires more than I like lab grown ones because the clarity makes it too almost fake looking. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you
Is
know
it-
what I mean? They look too shiny and fake. Whereas natural sapphires are fucking gorgeous.
Is it rubies that you can make in a microwave? Like,
Maybe.
I know one of the
Rubies and
gemstones.
sapphires are the same, except a difference of whether or not one has
one
iron.
of the precious gemstones. Like, if you mix up the right chemicals and put it in the microwave, like, you will actually be able to create crystals.
I'll have to check that out. I
I
don't
can't
know.
remember which one it is. It might be emeralds.
That might make sense.
I can't remember.
But yeah, like, so, you know,
One of them.
we put value to strange things, and we should consider how our brains do that and why we do it as a warning, really.
Yeah.
About applying value to the wrong things, because it's easy to see how our brains can lock on to bad ideas like that.
We are dumb apes.
yep.
We are dumb, hairless apes. I mean, neither of us look hairless, but compared to every other ape, we are dumb and hairless. I mean, we're not dumb compared to other apes, but we're fucking hairless.
Right?
We're still dumb.
Yeah, we're still a dumb ape.
We're
just
smarter than
the
every other ape,
smartest of the
but
dumb
we're still a
apes.
dumb ape.
Van Hollen says that Trump has no excuses for violating Abreu Garcia's rights. I like Van Hollen. He is he's doing a good job of sticking his thumb in the administration's eye.
As a born and raised Marylander, I am happy that he is from my state.
It's good. Yeah, he's
I'm happy
doing a
that
good
he's from
job.
my state.
And the administration doesn't have any excuses, but you know.
I haven't ever paid attention to any of his policy positions beyond this one, but he's good enough on this one that I'm proud of him
For this, at
as
least.
the senator, one of the senators from the state of Maryland.
Oh, that terrifying news that we were talking about just yesterday. India, Pakistan.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
look-
yeah.
They still look like they're poised to just go to war over
Yes,
Kashmir.
yes, because after murdering the Pope, which the fucking Pope died. After murdering the Pope, J.D. Vance went to India and immediately sparked a war between them and Pakistan that had been simmering but not actually threatening to go hot for quite some time.
Yeah. Now, we don't know for sure whether or not J.D. Vance murdered the Pope, but what we do know is that he met with the
do.
Pope, and then the Pope immediately died, and it seems that he died from cringe.
Telling you, like I said yesterday, the devil wears
Skyliner.
The devil wears Skyliner.
You son of a bitch, that was so good.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was an attack in Kashmir, and now things are just escalating between the two of them. Like, two angry, economically challenged,
Belligerent
belligerent states,
nuclear powers
next to each other with a centuries-old feud between them.
Now, I will say,
This is great.
I don't. They might bring in some regional neighbors to their little bullshit.
Yeah, but I don't
think it'll spread.
No.
This is going to be between India and Pakistan. I think even if they do start lobbing some of their big booms at each other, it's going to stay regional
For sure.
But can you imagine the damage to the global economy like a nuclear attack inside of India would do?
Oh yeah, and Pakistan
Even a
too.
small one.
Pakistan has a fair amount of exports. They do a lot of IT work. They do a lot of call center work. And now we may not consider that highly valuable, but it saves U.S. and European companies billions of dollars. Right?
I have a deep appreciation for the Pakistani people. I was engaged to one. Many years, 20 years ago. I was engaged to one.
Nice.
We're still friends.
Very nice. But yeah, their country has a lot of economic value, and a lot of strategic value to the U.S. military because of its proximity to, Afghanistan. Right.
I mean, it's easy to forget that, it was inside Pakistan where we got Bin Laden.
Yep. So we get that. So that's the problem. And then India. Oh my God, India is, while it's interesting because it's like a massive economic powerhouse, but not powerful.
I mean, that's the thing.
Right. It's just got a lot of people.
I mean, you've got Apple moving as much of their manufacturing as possible out of China and into India.
Yeah.
Because as China ascends and the quality of life gets there, the value of the labor goes up. It's not as cheap to produce there. Companies are going to move out of China.
Right. India also has a lot more, like the dollar for dollar of an educated employee is way better in India. India has done a really good job of getting like a large segment of their population and educated in STEM. Right, that there's not any work for.
A lot of engineers. Right. Lot of engineers.
There's a massive. So there's not enough work for all of the people in STEM that work there.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a no-brainer where there's just like all these unemployed developers and hardware engineers and software engineers.
And as far as like manual labor or like any even skilled labor or unskilled labor, they got like what 1.2, 1.3 billion people.
Yeah.
And
more than half of them are in poverty.
Yeah.
Like it's right. Like hundreds of millions of people living in like abject like squalor. Right.
And
there's a lot of value to that. And
they've also got a government right now, at least, that is more willing to throw more of its own people under the bus than China is.
Yeah.
For economic gain. And because China has its limits. China will only treat its own people so poorly, which is still not great. But India's willing to treat their people worse.
Yeah. And of course, they don't have the infrastructure to steal a bunch of IP. Right.
Right.
So like that's currently,
that's
China.
why,
you move a lot of your production over to China for something in tech, and you have a high chance that 10 years later a Chinese company is producing a competing product.
China has also put itself in this position where if you are buying a knockoff of a high-end like luxury item, it is probably coming from the exact same factory that made the actual luxury item.
Yeah.
So you were getting like literally the identical product without the branding for a fraction of the cost.
That happens a lot there.
Yeah.
Golf clubs are a big one. Like I know you go what, but like rich guys who do business in China, right? Lots of like U.S. business guys who travel to China for work, right? They rave about buying golf clubs outside of the factory, right? Because it's like they just take the branding off, or like or they just steal them, right?
Yeah.
One of the two, right? And then you can buy a set of like Callaways, right? That would cost you like $1,000 for the whole set, right? For like
identical quality.
Yeah, identical quality. Like $100.
Guitars. I own many guitars. You can't see them now because I'm not showing them off. But I own. There are 3 right in the living. 4 in the room we're recording in right now.
Yeah, I can seize them.
And I have 3 in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Especially since they started the advent of like CNC machines for wood. the quality of like cheap guitars coming out of China is insane. The only thing that's the low end is like they use cheap metal in some of the metal components.
But most of that you can really have swapped out.
Yeah, so you can
go
buy
to a guitar store.
You can buy a $150 Chinese guitar and body, and then swap out the pickups, the pots, and the bridge for $400, and have the equivalent of what would be like a $2,500 guitar
for $500.
for $500.
Nice. Yeah, that's
All you need to know is how to do some light soldering.
yeah. And heck, you can take it to a guitar repair or a customization shop. They exist still. Fewer of them, but they still exist. So yeah, that's mostly the news. I mean, we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of things happening.
We'll have more news about the Pope dying. We'll probably find out by next week who the new Pope is.
We will.
Will it be Pizzaballa? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be Pizzaballa.
Oh, one last thing, though, that the Supreme Court looks like it's poised to require that state-funded charter schools give money to religious institutions as well. Because...
Of course they will.
Of course they will. Because the idea that separation of church and state is a thing is no longer a thing, and we've been waiting for this to be used to basically gut public school, to give it to religious institutions for years.
It's a thing insofar as the government's not allowed to inconvenience religion.
Yeah. Like,
it only goes one way.
When this case happens, which it's going to happen, and if we ever get, like a sane, like, bunch of Democrats or some other like left of center or center-ish leadership in this country taking over the government again, what we just need to do is put some other guardrails in. Instead of saying, no, you can't give them money, say you can, but you have to have educational standards like X, Y, and Z in order to qualify.
The idea
you can do that.
Yeah, the idea that you should be able to take state money without having to abide by state guidelines is deranged.
Yeah.
Like... It's an either-or thing. You can either have the money and abide by these educational guidelines, or you can forgo the money and teach whatever psychotic nonsense you want.
Yep, and we could just, say, look, if you're not passing these standardized tests, you don't get the money.
Yeah.
The end. And it will have questions that they don't like what's the age of the fucking earth?
We are in dire fucking straits in this country when it comes to especially scientific literacy.
Yeah, and it's not a money problem because we spend
so much money,
more per student than almost anywhere else on Earth. We have a bad allocation, and we're not investing it correctly.
We have reached the point in the United States where probably 40% of the country does not trust science as a thing.
Yeah,
just does not believe in science. Period. Doesn't matter what it is. I have gotten in the dumbest arguments and conversations over like I was saying yesterday, like people are trying to bring back the miasma theory of fucking disease.
Right.
We're gonna start talking about balancing our humors again soon. The way things are going, and it's like this is shit that we learned was wrong hundreds of years ago. We got people saying I don't believe in germs because I can't see them.
Yeah.
Buy a fucking microscope. You could see them. You could see bacteria in a microscope. I've done it. I've physically seen them with my own fucking eyes.
All right, before we close out the news, first let's talk about a little bit of local stuff. Because
I think I know where this is going.
Because if you are a Gulf Coast, Florida individual, there's a very rich guy by the name of Jeffrey Knight.
Jeff Knight. Jeffy boy.
Jeff's the owner of Knight Industries, which is a big contractor for Spectrum. Did the installs for your cable, your wire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a couple of other businesses, like a security firm, right?
Yeah. He's diversified.
And a huge property developer. So
he owns. If you're not from St. Pete, you don't really know what this means without me explaining it. It's part of downtown's 200 block. Mm-hmm. It's sort of the bar, and it's like the more upscale bar and restaurant district.
He owns the whole
downtown.
200
He owns all of it, including the largest concert venue in the city.
Yes, Janice Landing. Or Janice Live.
Janice Live now. It used to be Janice Landing.
Yeah.
Now he's a minority owner in it. He's not the majority owner. But he was one of the owners of the largest concert venue in the city.
And
which
his son is a partner in it, too, who is actually the one running the company. So it's like,
it's a family business.
He's a minority owner, but he was the majority owner.
He is...
he's been involved now in 2 fatal boat instances. And this last one was amazing because it was a hit and run with a ferry.
And have you seen the video of the actual hit?
I haven't.
The video is out there of the his boat at full speed ramming the ferry in Clearwater.
Wow, that's the best part for me, though. What really makes me want to talk about this was the fact that until it became until the crescendo of like engagement and social media attention like became overwhelming.
Right, which we got to give special shout out to our boy AJ.
Yep, good job, AJ.
Who was personally spearheading an effort to make sure everybody knew that the pilot of the boat was Jeff Knight.
What was happening was that it was like being disappeared in real time with articles coming down or being rewritten.
It was
like,
so wild to watch.
Wild. And I was watching social media posts have their comments turned off, things get deleted, news articles change or be taken down because for like people 24 hours, like this guy, his PR team and the lawyers were like all over the news, like, we are really fucking rich and you will stop talking about this.
There was
and
literally... You have news articles that would literally have photographs of him being led away by officers.
Yep.
And instead of his saying, like, Jeff Knight,
right,
it would just say, the pilot of the boat.
Right. And then the article would just get taken down.
Yeah. Disappear, poof, gone.
And we were watching this in real time. It was amazing.
Yeah, I was working while AJ was just sitting at the bar, like, freaking out, watching all this shit go on.
And I was impressed. And then finally it became too big, and all of a sudden now it's news. Right. But we almost watched a billionaire get away with like a fatal hit and run without his name getting in the news.
He still has not been charged with anything.
No,
last I looked. And like that, if he is not charged at all, like if he just gets away with this, that is going to be a PR nightmare that I don't think they're ready for.
Yeah, I'm also really shocked that he blew a 0.0 because from what I've heard, he hasn't blown a 0.0 in the last 50 years.
You know, you can be coked out of your fucking mind and blow a 0.0.
I would love to see a talk screen on him.
Yeah, I
bet they didn't though.
They probably didn't. Even though you could literally have him piss on a strip and know instantly.
Yep. I bet they refused. I bet they either didn't or he refused and stalled.
Stalled just long enough to like,
and used
inconclusive toxicity results.
Used his lawyers, but he was the pilot of a boat. It crashed into a ferry full of people, tourists.
Oh, it killed 1, injured 20.
Yeah, and then he fled the scene, and
motherfucker hit and ran with a boat.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so let's do some good news. We have a bunch of rescue puppies starring in Puppy Hamlet at the St. Pete Theater.
Puppy Hamlet?
Puppy Hamlet. And the photo that this article is using is fucking adorable. Like, these just look at that puppy.
That is like the platonic ideal of a cute puppy.
Yeah. So we're getting Puppy Hamlet in St. Pete. So, Sam, that's some good news for you. Federal courts seem to be slapping the Trump administration down left, right, and center. So that's some good news.
And a lot of some of these judges are Trump appointees from the last time.
Yep. Do we have any other good news for Sam?
Andor season 2 dropped.
Yes. Oh, Andor season 2.
Andor season 2.
Sam, I don't know if you're watching it, but if you're not, get on it. It's Leftist Infighting, the TV show. I forget it's a Star Wars show. I want to talk about this for a minute because I forget this thing is a Star Wars show while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Like
to the point that like I don't even notice that like some of the characters aren't human.
Yeah.
Like they're aliens, and I'm just like
no,
it just doesn't.
They're obviously doing what Star Wars and the Empire does, which is like within the Empire, like aliens are kind of like second-class citizens.
The Empire was a human supremacist organization,
and so you're getting a lot of humans and not a lot of aliens. The aliens are very backdrop, but you
couldn't rise in the ranks as an alien unless you were Thrawn.
But you really don't notice like that it's a Star Wars set universe all that easily. Even though it's all practical effects.
It's so well written.
Yeah.
It's so well staged. It's so well directed. The acting is better than it's ever been in a Star Wars property. Like, I love Star Wars. I've loved Star Wars since I was a small child. My earliest memories are watching A New Hope before it was called A New Hope, and The Empire Strikes Back on VHS when I was like 3 or 4.
And the allegory to this week's episode, like, drop with like it being almost like a kind of like the resistance to the Vichy government in France. Like, it's very kind of like almost on the nose, but like you'd have to know that.
You know, they actually created the Gorman language entirely. Like they took phonetic aspects of French and German together, but they created an entire new language. That is a fully bespoke language.
That is amazing.
That they made for the TV show.
That's because it's good. And like you're listening, like,
and we're probably only going to hear it for one more episode.
Yeah, and the thing that really is striking about it is, like, one, there is another language that is being spoken by humans, which is, I think, really the first time you encounter that.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, like, on any kind of scale. Like, it's usually aliens. Yeah, right?
Normally it's yeah.
So this was another one of those like striking moments where it's so different from the rest of Star Wars, because now you're seeing how individual planets have their own cultures and languages, right? And the Empire is stifling that and trying to wipe it out.
Andor is doing something unbelievably well that I have been frustrated about Star Wars with since Disney took over.
Okay.
And that is making the Star Wars galaxy feel bigger and more lived in and more organic. Like, it's a real place with real cultures and real people. It's not focused on one small group of individuals that fate keeps seeming to come back around to. Like, there ain't no Skywalkers in this.
Right. There's no Skywalkers. There's no Obi-Wan. There's no...
These are regular people who have found themselves in the position to, in whatever small or big ways they can, fight back against tyranny.
Yeah, we're a season and a half in, and we haven't seen a single Sith or Jedi, right?
No.
Not one. That's awesome.
Not one.
Like, I mean, obviously the Jedi are supposed to be basically gone, except for the few that are like
the closest you could say we've come is that since this show is going to lead directly into Rogue One, and if you view Rogue One as sort of like the series finale, Vader shows up in that. Yeah, for his single greatest scene in Star Wars history.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like for those who are big Vader fans but have always been disappointed you don't get to see him wreck shit. Rogue One is so gratifying because he just
final scene in Rogue One. I remember the first opening night seeing it in theaters. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat. I had my hands just dug in to the fucking armrest.
It was so good.
On the fucking theater chair. And I was not breathing. Like, I was just like...
It's
shaking and not breathing the entire time because it was something I had wanted from the IP since I was a small child that I had always been denied.
Yeah.
Because we never saw Darth Vader at his like full unbridled power.
In the movies, you know, the fight scenes with Vader are fairly short except for Jedi, right? Jedi's the longest, really.
At the end of Empire. When he takes Luke's hand.
Yeah, but
that's a long sequence.
Is that one actually longer than
15 minutes of screen time?
Maybe you're right.
It's intercut with other things, but that's long, and it's multi-location. Like, they are all over the lower parts of Bespin.
Yeah. So those two fights are like right? And that's all the Vader fighting you see. And obviously they were limited by practical effects, by the costume, like, you know, all those other things. So you don't get a lot of like Vader being.
Yeah, from what I understand, it was not easy for David Prowse to like move.
Right.
in that suit. It was very constricting and limiting, and
they kept breaking their fake lightsabers like that they were using to fight with. Like they kept breaking those. Like so, that's a challenge. Rogue One gives you chills. It's like just Vader wrecking.
That's my favorite 2 minutes in Star Wars live
He's like a
action
fucking
history.
Terminator with a lightsaber.
And he doesn't seem like he's trying.
No.
Like he's just boom, 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 slaughtering. But Andor season 2. If you haven't watched season 1, definitely watch all of season 1. They are dropping season 2, 3 episodes at a time, once a week. I was correct. When I had the feeling that every 3 episodes was going to drop with a 1 year later.
Yeah.
Because it is covering the 4 years between the end of season 1 and the beginning of Rogue One.
Yeah.
And I was very pleased with myself to have been correct on that.
But you're getting like a spy show and a basically a drama about bureaucracy within fascism and and how propaganda works. It's really good because it's touching on all these geopolitical factors.
Even all of the villains are like exceptionally well-rounded, deep characters with different motivations and backstories, and
they're not just villains, which
they're real
that's
people.
another flaw of the older Star Wars and other Star Wars properties, right? Like it's hard to tell what the motivation of most of ours because
the banality of evil on display in watching the imperial bureaucracy do its work.
Yeah, because these villains aren't. They're evil, but they're not intentionally evil. They're
just doing their job.
Right. Which has been a weakness of other Star Wars things, where the villains are clearly just villainous, right?
The Emperor is literally a cackling old man who shoots lightning from his fingers.
Yes, and half his motivation is to control everything. The other half of his motivation is to kill everybody because he's an asshole, right? And Darth Vader's actually a psychotic monster.
Yeah.
And
tragic psychotic monster, but a
Right.
psychotic monster nevertheless.
And all the other bounty hunters you saw throughout the course of it are just they're assholes and they enjoy their jobs and opportunists.
Happy to see human life or any life as just a commodity to be bought and sold and traded for credits.
And Jabba the Hutt is actually probably the worst criminal ever, but he really likes killing people.
He's not good at crime.
He's not great at crime. But they're doing a really good job of that, and also showing how why crime being up everywhere is amazing. In the Andor touching on that, it's it's less safe than the Republic was.
Yeah.
In part because the Empire is so fucking corrupt that it basically considers normal people and anybody who resists criminals. But it's going to look the other way for criminals because that helps the bureaucrats and it helps this person and helps this person get where they want to go. And people can take amounts of money here and there.
Somebody was talking about how
it's great.
When Cyril Karn is first reintroduced in season 2, and he's giving a new employee of the Standards and Bureau's office a tour.
Yeah.
He's talking about how important the job is. It is most likely that the diversion of materials that he discovered were materials that were surreptitiously being used to build the Death Star that the Empire didn't actually want on the books.
Yes.
Because they're trying to keep the whole project secret.
That's right. Yeah. And we're getting kind of that all the evil pieces that went into the Death Star are kind of falling into place with this. It's great. Andor, watch it. It's great.
It's as good as Star Wars can be.
Yep. And if you haven't seen it, Daredevil Born Again season 1 was
great.
Great. Watch it. Charlie Cox and Barenthal did an amazing job.
No one has been more born to play a role than D'Onofrio was born to play Kingpin. It's
right.
Absurd how well he inhabits that role.
He inhabits it so well.
I mean, if there's any good news, is it is a great time to be into nerd bullshit.
Yeah.
Fucking the Oblivion remaster's great.
Yeah. I mean,
it's got all the old Bethesda bugs, but it looks brand new.
I mean, all right, here's the thing I'm going to say, though. I really don't want to spend $60, $80 on a reskin of an old game. Please give me some new stuff to play with.
Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is apparently one of the greatest RPGs of the last 20 years.
All right.
Brand new game studio. They've never made a game before. 30-person crew.
Nice.
Bunch of people who like had worked at and been abused by and left Ubisoft.
Awesome. What was the name of this game again?
Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I'm actually going to buy it later today and probably play it Saturday before work.
Send me some screenshots or something so I can see what
It looks gorgeous. It's very painterly. You're trying to stop this entity called the Paintress, who every year she shows up. She inscribes a new number on this giant pillar, and everyone that age and older fucking is erased from existence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're fighting. You're trying to get to her to stop her before she writes a 32 on there, and you go too.
Nice. That's kind of cool.
She started at 100.
And she's working her way down.
And every year they send out an expedition to try to stop her.
Okay.
And this is the 67th time they're trying.
She is,
and they keep on failing.
So she's the more successful COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think that COVID maybe should have done a better job of taking out the boomers.
Well, we're not doing anything about bird flu, so we'll get into that in our 100 days coverage, though.
Yep. All right. So we'll get into that next.
Yeah.
So retrospective of Trump's first 100 days.
Yes, today we are recording on May 1st. It is day 101, so we're going to look back at the last 100 days that we have all collectively experienced together.
I would like to say that we have not seen anything like this presidency. No one to date has pushed the boundaries of the rule of law like this.
No, not even remotely close.
Not even remotely close. In fact, even that Andrew Jackson quote is apparently apocryphal, for one, and two, was actually about a case against the state of Georgia.
Right.
Yeah. Which he basically didn't want to enforce it against Georgia, but Georgia was the one that was hit.
Ruled against,
Was ruled against. So it was actually not even in order for him to do anything.
It's just like, I'm not going to enforce it against Georgia. If they want to, they can.
Yeah, which, so, you know, again...
Still bad.
It's bad.
But not this.
Not this at all. And so, we've never seen anything like this. The man clearly is a little bit senile, a lot of bit crazy, and isn't actually in charge. He just is... No. He's got... I mean, yes, he's technically in charge. He's just not doing anything to get really involved.
We have a president in name only right now. We do not have a single chief executive of the executive branch.
And it's not that he has... It's not like they've usurped the power from him. Like, that's not what we're saying.
He's just happy to not care what is done. Like, He
gives a few directives about things he wants because he's a true believer on some of this crazy shit.
And it's primarily just the tariffs.
Yep.
Which he's been obsessed with for 40 years or more.
And he has, you know, when he wants to wade into something, he wades into it. And the rest of the time, it's just he's letting his advisors run things. Yeah. Because every other president we've had, say whatever you want about them, they've all been highly educated, intelligent men who had a drive and a work ethic, right?
Even W.
Yeah.
Like, had things that he genuinely cared about.
Right.
That genuinely, like, meant something to him in terms of, like, policy things he wanted to accomplish.
And he was capable of understanding his daily security briefs and having conversations with his cabinet level officials and advisors and, like, asking them questions and things.
He didn't need everything in just picture charts with no words.
Yeah, like crayons and... making it more interesting by putting his name all over it.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need that. This guy does. And so that's a level of incompetent disinterest that we've never seen. And he's letting the lawyers and the advisors do whatever they want. It's clear nobody really tells him anything, like, as far as details go.
He's very much running the country like an aging mafioso vaguely controls a crime family.
Yeah.
Where he's the figurehead, he's the guy in charge, he's the Don, literally. But he's not the one actually, like, doing the things that make the criminal organization function.
No, and now, you know, like, that's fine for a lot of organizations. Like, you know,
I mean, it can work in a larger corporation can have, like, a CEO who's like, or a president who's like, fairly detached from reality, but the board,
particularly if the company is like privately owned,
right? But the board is like capable and competent and can like keep things running, and it's okay if he's a little kooky and detached from reality.
Mm-hmm. As long as it can function that way.
Yeah.
And privately held corporations, a lot of them can work that way because the owner, the majority stakeholder, doesn't have to do anything. It's just,
he did the thing by putting up the money in the first place.
And he signs off on X, Y, and Z and gets involved in the things he has to. That's it.
But his main goal is to just not really do as much, do as little as possible.
Yep.
Just make millions, do nothing.
That functions for that. This is not the job.
No.
The President of the United States is not that job, and the government doesn't operate that way, and it's not his company. He talks about it like it is,
He talks about it.
He talks about it like it's a grocery store.
His weird analogy for like it's a super, it's a shopping mall.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're going to have the best prices on the best products. Like, what?
Yeah.
I decide the prices. What the fuck does that even mean? I decide the prices of what?
Talking about how eggs have gone down 98% since he took office.
When I know the last time I went to the grocery store and like the carton of eggs I used to get were $6.99 for a dozen.
Right.
The last time I went and they actually had them in stock, that same carton of eggs was $12.59. That is not a 98% drop in the price. Mm-hmm. That is about a 98% increase in the price.
No, it is not.
So we've got a timeline of the last 100 days, and I think you got to begin at the beginning, which was January 20th. Not the best day for the United States of America.
No, it was
But he was
inauguration was painful to watch.
The inauguration was painful to watch, but he was sworn in, and then
the flurry,
the volume of asinine to insane executive orders he signed that first day, showing them up to the camera one at a time, having to ask what they were as he was signing. He was like, I'm signing this. What's this one do?
Right.
Okay, this does this.
It was such a big, dumb show. It was pomp and circumstance for no reason.
And then he pardoned everybody who'd been convicted of any sort of criminal activity on January 6, 2021.
Yep. And that is horrid and shameful in and of itself. Like, again, these people, some of them were convicted of some serious violent crimes. Some of them were convicted of actually plotting to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
He did no vetting. He did no separation of individuals. If he pardoned some of the old people who like got hit with a trespassing charge or something, sure.
The non-violent, the people who like
got caught up in the moment,
followed, and we're going or doing it.
Yeah, whatever.
But
but the
maybe,
guy who shit on Pelosi's desk.
maybe don't pardon the people who like were the ones personally building the gallows to hang the vice president. Maybe don't pardon the people. And I don't like cops, but maybe don't pardon the people who, I don't know, beat cops to death.
Right. Or
with sticks.
Or hospitalized several of them.
Yeah.
Hey, I got an idea. The guys that hid weapons caches in hotels nearby in case it turned into an actual revolution.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe don't pardon the people who showed up with bear spray and zip ties looking for Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
Or Chuck Schumer. Maybe.
Just
don't do that.
Don't do that. Like, that's easy. But no, we did that.
And my favorite part of us doing that is how many of them have either been rearrested or killed since.
The ones that
is a not statistically insignificant number.
Isn't it like 4 of them who got killed in shootouts with the police?
Yeah. It's like they thought that they got pardoned for that their one crimes that one day, and that meant they just could not be arrested again.
The shootouts with the police. The President of the United States pardoned people who then went on to die in shootouts with police.
And
for other unrelated crimes.
I'm not one to discourage anyone's good time, but if you are going to get yourself involved in a shootout with the police, that is never going to end well for you.
Right.
Your best case scenario is they take you alive.
Here's the thing. Like
You're
there,
not-
are,
you-
there are reasons I could say that you could get into a shootout with the police and be morally justified. I've got a lot of ideas around them. ICE, but I don't expect the sitting president of the United States to pardon me and then go do that. Like the optics of an individual being pardoned for January 6th and then going on to commit other crimes or fire a gun at police officers after that.
It's not good.
Are very bad optics. Suboptimal. It does not say that the decision making, the judgment of the president is very sound. Like it doesn't say much about their ability to vet people. Right. At all. Right. It does not. Just my opinion, I guess. But yeah, so that happened.
So that was fun. That was day one.
And he rolled back a bunch of just things that Biden had done.
Yeah, a huge number of the executive orders that were signed were just repealing Biden executive orders.
Yeah.
And it is a problem that, going back to W, that we have had presidents who relied so heavily on executive orders to fulfill their various parts of their agenda. It's been weird to watch Congress kind of left out of the process in so many ways. But by the same token, Congress has been fairly unwilling to actually govern, especially from the GOP side.
Yeah, which, I guess in some ways is good because it makes unfucking some of this a bit easier.
I mean, after his first 2 years, if Obama wanted to get anything done, he basically had to find a way to do it by executive order.
Yeah, and that led to a lot of what he did being able to be just undone.
Yeah.
And that is a huge problem in our system.
And people need to understand that, like, executive orders can just be undone by the next president.
Yeah.
Legislation has to be repealed by Congress.
Right.
Now, your administration can refuse to enforce specific laws or decide to aggressively over-enforce them. But they can't just
change the way
they're written. They can't just write a piece of paper and say, this isn't the law anymore.
Though we're seeing, again, executive orders that are basically trying to scrap or line item veto parts of laws.
Or parts of the Constitution.
It's a little bit nuts.
So, I mean, one of the executive orders that he did sign that we haven't seen anything come from yet directly was the executive order to give him a good excuse to invoke the Insurrection Act 90 days later.
Yeah.
Which he didn't do. And, I know a lot of people worry about martial law. You can't pacify the United States of America in its totality. You could lock down certain parts of the country. You could overly militarize local police forces to become a real fucking problem. By the same token, those local police forces would still be beholden to these cities and municipalities and counties that run them. Like, the federal government couldn't come in and start telling the St. Pete Police Department how it has to police St. Pete against St. Pete's will. Yeah,
my concerns are about on the utilizing martial law on the local or state level, or locking down cities, right?
Yeah, and
he could use the National Guard to have command and control and martial law over most major cities. And it would be a problem.
It would be a problem, and it would be much easier for him to do in red states, blue cities in red states.
Yeah. Some other things from day one. We withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord, the WHO. We renamed the Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of America.
The birthright citizenship executive order was when he signed that. He ordered the investigation into the prosecutors who charged him, and the TikTok delay. So that was day one. Wow, this is amazing. So we get in day two. What do we got?
Well, my next thing is on January 23rd, which is day 3. Day 1, 2, and 3 were a lot of executive orders.
Yeah. Oh, day 2 is the bishop thing, though. That was when he got into it with the bishop who said you should have mercy on the gays.
Right.
Yeah, and threatened her.
Yeah, that's when we started this story arc of empathy being a sin.
Yep.
That's when that really became
that was
part of the
amazing.
discourse, empathy being a sin.
That's how we got here. Great.
Yeah, empathy's a sin.
So what do we got on day 3 for you?
Day 3, we've got the first phone call with a foreign leader. It was our most important ally in the world, Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia, was the very first world leader to talk to the newly inaugurated Donald John Trump.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he paid a lot of money to make this election happen.
The political appointees ordered the U.S. attorney to investigate and prosecute state and city law enforcement officials. They refused to carry out administration's immigration crackdown. That was on that same day, the 23rd.
Yeah. Do you have anything on the 23rd through the 29th? Because the 29th, we've got like the first big story that wasn't just Trump doing things in the Oval Office.
We get that dipshit confirmed in the CIA. Hegseth confirmed, of course.
That's going well.
The 15 inspectors general were all fired on the 24th.
Doge was getting up and running.
Yep, Doge was getting up and running. Let's see. Oh, that's when they started the idea of like having Jordan, Israel, or in Egypt house all the Palestinians. That was on the 6th.
Yeah. But January 29th.
Retaliatory sanctions against Colombia for the deportation flights. Oh, that's when we got the first deportation flights, too.
January 29th is when we got the beginning of the end of safe air travel in the United States of America.
Yes.
When a military helicopter crashed into a commercial airliner.
Oh, my God.
Over the Potomac.
What was it? 3 plane crashes in a week?
Yeah.
Like,
some were in the air, some were on the ground. There were some planes that just set themselves on fire spontaneously.
Suddenly, it just went from 0 to 100. Like, now that's hard to blame a president for that, but 0 to 100.
The air traffic controllers were working double shifts at 50% staffing because of the let's get rid of everybody who's a DEI hire. So that's when the short staffing started. And that's one of the things that caused that initial crash on the 29th was the air traffic controller in the tower that day was doing the job of 2 people at once.
Yeah.
And he was like 14 hours into a shift.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, and he blamed DEI for the collision on the 30th, day 11. That was the additional measures to combat anti-Semitism, which was mainly targeted at foreign students in the U.S.
Right.
That was the 30th.
That's 30th.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're moving out of January, out of the first 10 days, into February.
Yep. But the last day of January,
what happened?
We stopped celebrating, things like Black History Month.
But that's right. We canceled every DEI holiday.
Yep. The immediate halt to all activities and events related to historical and cultural observances, including MLK Day, Black History Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day. Like, just the federal government was like, we don't do black people anymore. That was nice.
And, it's not like the United States federal government was ever the best friend to black Americans.
Yeah.
It's been a historically tumultuous relationship between the two.
Yep.
And that's mostly been the government's fault. I don't want to just lay blanket blame, but overwhelmingly.
Generally speaking, when one side has the power and the other does not. That's generally where the blame.
I can't think of anything specifically off the top of my head that black people did to make the situation worse.
No. Existing. They tried to drink at the same water fountains a few times.
They might have gotten
They wanted to ride the bus.
Yeah, and then they wanted to get their black cooties on all the good clean white people.
Yep,
I guess
they were banging the white women. They voted. They wanted to vote. And they wanted to go to college. Yeah,
the fucking nerve.
The nerve.
Next thing you're gonna hear is they're gonna want generational wealth.
Ooh.
Maybe fair housing practices. Oh, you want to buy a home? And nobody gets to buy a home. That's the thing.
We got this big red line here on the map.
I am not entirely convinced that we did not make it impossible for anyone to buy a home just to specifically keep black people from buying homes.
We probably, yeah. You know, you could be right.
I mean, it's one way to get around disparate impacts.
It could be an incidentally racism cut into affordable housing programs and grant programs and things to increase the amount of housing, right? From the 90s into the early 2000s. And now we're paying the price of that.
You know, I wouldn't...
So incidentally, they cut these things because of racism, but it led to a housing shortage.
Because see, here's
that has priced all of us out of being able to afford to buy houses.
Here's the thing that
makes sense.
People like to forget, and I think they forget this intentionally. If you are in a country and you start specifically making things difficult for one group of people, it becomes essentially impossible to make sure that does not start impacting all groups of people. Just
particularly
as a
when
knock-on
you do
effect.
have the legal structures in place that we do that guarantee equal protection,
right? You end up,
because these things have to be written in race neutral ways, which make them they disproportionately impact X population, but poor people of Y and Z population also get hit by it, and then it spirals.
Trying to keep rural black voters from voting tends to just make sure that rural voters can't vote.
Yeah.
In the numbers that they might otherwise.
Yeah, you have to be very specific in how you target them.
Yeah.
So doing it by closing polling places is a successful measure, but doing it by requiring more identification or onerous, et cetera, getting rid of mail-in voting just hurts rural voters.
Yeah. So we got February 3rd. The United States of America decided soft power was no longer in its toolkit when we shut down USAID.
Oh, yeah.
As February 3rd.
And we also decided to pull the temporary protected status of 300,000 Venezuelans, leaving recipients 60 days to leave the country.
It's interesting that we targeted Venezuelans first.
Yeah.
That kind of took me by surprise. I mean, I know we haven't had the best relationship at the federal level with Venezuela for the last 10, 15 years.
That's the problem there. And I mean that politically. Because, how would I put it? Many Venezuelans, not many of them are here for all sorts of reasons, but many Venezuelans who are here associate Maduro and Chavez before him with socialism, right?
Yeah.
And so we have kind of
they are people, if you are a party who embraces them, will vote for you.
Right. In parts of Florida here, Venezuelans leaned Republican, right?
They tend to be very Catholic.
Yep, they tend to be very Catholic.
Which makes them
more
socially conservative than they might otherwise be.
And, anytime you can throw, accusations of socialist or communist at the opponent party, right? It worked on them, right?
Yeah.
So they tended to lean more GOP.
That's one of the reasons Florida has been as red as it's been the last 30 years.
The Cubans predominantly, but Venezuelans were not immune to it, right?
No.
They were another constituency there. And so targeting them seems stupid.
Well, I mean, if you look at, it's been fascinating to me in general to see the Republican Party, starting really in the early 2000s in particular, going out of its way to alienate minority groups that would probably be sympathetic to their political agenda in general for the sake of being racist.
Yeah, and it's funny because it wasn't in the early 2000s, it wasn't the administration. Bush tried to court Latino voters.
Yeah,
right?
he tried to court Latino voters. He tried
the passionate conservatism
in the wake of 9/11. He went out of his way to try to at least talk about how this wasn't all Muslims.
Yeah. Now, the intelligence apparatuses of the United States military and government did everything they could to
Undermine that.
But, and the rest of his party going absolutely batshit
about Sharia law.
Remember
creeping Sharia law?
Yeah. Like, and you remember oh my God, do you remember in the Obama administration, the Ground Zero Mosque?
Yeah.
Which was actually just a cultural center and like community center.
And
not
it was
a mosque.
like further away from Ground Zero than an existing mosque already was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like 15, 20 blocks away.
Yeah, it was just, we don't want any Muslims owning anything in New York. That's how that came out. It was dumb. And Fox News ran with that for months. Oh my God. But yeah, they just shoot themselves in the foot with these groups.
A lot of, especially older black voters in the United States, like when it comes to social issues, would be very sympathetic to the Republican Party platform.
Yeah,
there's a lot of very, very traditional Christian.
Right, there's just some loyalty from the civil rights era. Like that's, there's some loyalty from the civil rights era, and they are, for being conservative, they tend to be very pragmatic voters.
If the Republican
they know
Party,
which side is going to be more likely to butter their bread than the other.
If the Republican Party had decided to like abandon that one particular thing that they were dead set on doing as soon as the party switch happened, and started embracing black voters, I think you would not see it be like 98-2%.
No.
Democrat versus Republican.
They tried too hard to court the racists in the South, which I get it. It left them like a lockdown in a bunch of states.
Yeah,
but
until the United States does become a majority-minority country. Yeah, sometime.
Georgia becoming a solid actual swing state is unexpected because of this shit. They
planned ahead for everything except the demographic shifts that they knew were coming.
But they've spent the last 15 years trying to counter that pressure, right? Through voter ID laws and immigration restrictions and closing polling places and like taking people off the voting rolls, right?
The voter roll purges.
Yeah, all of that to disenfranchise people as best as they possibly can to counter
and doing things that people don't think of as being disenfranchisement, like closing DMV locations, like requiring ID to vote, and then closing all the DMV locations in predominantly African American areas.
Yep.
So people who don't have cars necessarily have to travel 50, 60 miles to get an ID just to vote when they don't have a means to get there back and forth because there's also no public transit.
And that fucks them. And
but it doesn't, you can pretend it's not racist. You can pretend it's this, we're just trying to protect the sanctity of the vote.
Yeah, and we're trying to save money because we can't afford a DMV here and there. Yeah.
These people don't drive anyway. Why do they need a DMV?
Right.
Well, and then you require ID for things that you shouldn't be requiring ID for.
Yep. All right, what's next?
February 4th.
What's on February 4th?
Benjamin Netanyahu visits, and Donald Trump blows his goddamn mind, talking about turning Gaza into the new Riviera.
That's right. Wow, that was amazing. That was so bad.
The most deranged AI video ever created.
Oh my God, the gold and the Trump all over the place, and Netanyahu and him like shirtless, sunbathing.
Elon eating shrimp.
Yeah,
just stuffing shrimp in his mouth. Fucking cocktail sauce dripping down his chin.
Which, all right, so the imagery of like him eating shrimp in Gaza is like neither halal or kosher.
Yeah.
Are big on the shellfish.
Yeah.
I was real like, what's with this?
Real fucking weird.
Yeah, it was very weird.
It was like somebody went into Chat GPT and was like, hey, make me every evangelical Zionist wet dream of a future for Gaza.
And then the first few drafts weren't gaudy enough because they needed to trump it up.
Literal 40-foot tall solid gold statues of Donald Trump.
Right? Like, and weren't the Saudis somehow involved in this? I don't even remember. It was so bad. Let's see. Oh, Pam Bondi was confirmed. 54 to 46 vote.
She's one of the more embarrassing things to ever come out of the state of Florida.
But hey, 119 million people were saved from fentanyl deaths.
Literally 1/3 of the United States population has been in just the last 3 months.
In the last 3 months, 119 million people would have died from fentanyl. From 22 million pills that had fentanyl in them. Now, of those 22 million pills that had fentanyl in them, I think less than 1 million had a lethal dose.
You have to remember, that fentanyl is the sort of drug you can overdose on if you look at it directly. Like if you make eye contact with the fentanyl, you convulse and die. Just total respiratory suppression instantaneously.
Yep. That amount of fentanyl they gave me to get my teeth out, that killed me 3 times while I was under.
I died twice in one day at work when a fentanyl vial broke in my hand. In about 2015. I've been dead for 10 years.
You've been dead for 10 years. Like, guys, fentanyl's bad, but it's also good. It's useful. It has medical uses. And for serious addicts who have a tolerance, fentanyl doesn't kill them.
Fentanyl is
takes
used,
a lot.
Fentanyl is used in surgeries because it is so strong and it has an exceptionally short half-life, so you don't have to worry about
being high all day.
Somebody can come out of surgery, and as soon as they recover from the anesthesia part of it, they're no longer high from the narcotics that they've been pumped with the entire time they were being operated on.
Yeah.
Because it's only got about a 15, 20-minute half-life before it starts to wear off.
Right. They put me on a cocktail of ketamine and fentanyl, which was, one, felt great. I'm not going to lie. But 2, easy to wake you up. You don't die. It was great.
That's also why, if you don't die, if you're exposed to a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl, if you don't die within 15 minutes, you won't.
Yeah. So let's just have more Narcan in society.
Do you remember that night it was just the 2 of us at the bar, and that guy kept coming in to buy Dr. Peppers for his buddy who was ODing on fentanyl outside, and he wouldn't let us call anybody. He's like, I just gotta keep him awake.
Yes.
He pumped him full of enough Dr. Pepper that the caffeine kept him from dying. Right outside the fucking bar.
It's amazing.
We finally got Narcan at the bar, at that location that day.
Yeah.
We'd always had it at the other one.
Yep.
But we just didn't have it at the.
At least once or twice a year, somebody comes in, fucking nod it out.
I'm pretty sure we've had to Narcan at least one person who was passed out in the bathroom.
Yeah, and there was that gal. I don't know what she was on, but we hit her with Narcan, and then you were there that night, weren't you? Took the bad Xannies.
No, I was not there for that.
Her boyfriend. Oh yeah, it was bad. It was an annoying day.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
God, they come in and they just sit down on the couch and I'm like, you got to get your, he's like, no, she's fine. The boyfriend kept trying to convince me that everything's fine. I'm like, your girlfriend is definitely not fine. I eventually called an ambulance because I just.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that after the fact.
That was fucking wild. All right, what do we got next?
The next thing I have on my list was February 12th. When Trump personally took over the Kennedy Center.
Gotcha. But on the 5th of February, we had the first tariffs with China.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Which ones were they?
That was imposed tariffs on China. That was the first 10% ones.
Okay.
Right? It was a big, here's our fuck you. And that didn't work well. And it started the trade war. All right, so you got, what was that?
February 12th, he announced he was personally taking over the Kennedy Center.
That's right. And then art and culture went to die, and now they're playing nothing but Nugent all the time, right?
Kid Rock needs to eat. He's got to be able to afford to buy cans of Bud Light to performatively shoot with a machine gun.
Yeah.
That shit's not free.
Of course, we in between then, before that, we got Russell Vought in OMB.
Shadow President Russell Vought.
Yep. And Trump went to war against 60 Minutes because they didn't like their coverage of him, and so he wanted it terminated.
They have since caved.
Yeah.
And the executive producer for the last 35 years of 60 Minutes resigned.
It's fucking insane.
I guess that was Paramount leaning on CBS to make the news division kowtow to Trump's demands. So that was a Paramount directive, since they've merged with CBS. several years ago. I remember when they merged. It was a while. It was 5-10 years ago.
Oh, same time as the Kennedy Center thing. We get the executive order cutting financial assistance to South Africa because they're discriminated against the white Afrikaners, and that's when we offered them all asylum.
Well, no group of people has ever been more oppressed, more brutally than white people in South Africa.
Right? The Afrikaners are the most oppressed people in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's nonsense.
I remember.
It's so
do you remember?
stupid.
Do you remember back in the '80s when musical groups were disgustingly refusing to perform in Cape Town?
Yeah, it was awful. It was so disgusting.
It was vile and unfair and cruel.
Discriminating against those white Afrikaners.
I know they couldn't see Stevie Van Zandt or U2.
Yeah. You know, or
because they're not going to play Sun City. They even wrote a song about it. And they used that song to raise money for black people. Disgusting.
That's
despicable.
That should. How U2 didn't wind up in prison for that, I do not know.
They should have been sent straight to the Hague.
Straight to the Hague.
They should have been given a prison cell with Slobodan Milosevic.
We should have created Seacon early.
Yeah, just for you, just for Bono.
Just for Bono. I mean,
I'm only half joking. I fucking hate Bono.
I like U2 though. I do. I'm sorry.
They wrote a lot of good songs up through Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
they started to lose me after that.
Yeah, I mean, like after Joshua Tree, their albums were not as good.
When their stage setup was a 50-foot lemon, I'm like, I think I'm out. This is silly.
But I went to the 360 tour. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And it rained.
I don't know. I don't like my Irishmen that pompous.
I mean, fair. I am not defending Bono.
No one should.
I'm saying that of like musical frontmen that I like that you could hate, right? Bono is no Anthony Kiedis. And he can actually write good lyrics.
It's true. He's never written a song about California, to my knowledge.
Yeah, and that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I like.
He did force one of his albums onto my iPhone, though.
That was a lot, and I'm very mad at Apple for that move.
I like how that was like 2014, and people are still pissed about it.
I mean,
it's been 11 years. Like, oh, fucking. It's some people's Vietnam.
I mean,
waking up one day and finding a U2 album for free on their device. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, like
it wasn't even a good U2 album.
Here's the thing: I didn't own an iPhone, but I had a
iPod,
and it was just on there.
Yeah.
Like it was just like forced on there after it connected to the internet. I was like,
yeah,
the fuck, like
unacceptable.
Yeah, I was mad. But yeah, so I can understand.
Yeah,
like, but 11 years and we're still. I mean, it makes sense. We can hold a grudge here in this country.
I wasn't even mad. I just like, I don't want this, and I deleted it. And it was gone.
Okay. Americans can hold a grudge pretty well. And I understand it. All right. What else we got?
Well, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Oh.
In a display of unparalleled love, the White House started denying the AP access to press briefings because they would not call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
That's right.
That's right. Happy Valentine's Day. Here's your little candy with words written on it.
Yep.
That says "Go fuck yourself." It's the Gulf of America now.
Do you know what you missed in there though?
What did I miss?
Two things.
Ooh, what did I miss?
The steel and aluminum tariffs that were hit on any imported steel or aluminum, 25%. That was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
It's what caused car stocks to just go into chaos. And Ford was like not happy about it. But the other one, this is the best one. The most shockingly corrupt thing the DOJ has ever done.
And that's pretty impressive.
You know which one it is.
Do I?
Yeah. February 10th.
Okay.
New York Mayor Eric Adams. That was when that saga happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ordered
the most impressively blatant quid pro quo I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, like shockingly corrupt. Like impressive in how
is on brand for
blatant it was.
both this administration and Eric Adams.
Yeah. The funny part is that it technically backfired because his plea deal, like the case, the judge required them to drop the case with prejudice instead of without.
Right.
Which meant that they can't bring the charges back.
Yeah, they didn't have that. They lost their leverage.
Yeah. So they initially had the most impressive, like, including a piece of leverage where if you don't do what we say as mayor, we will prosecute you again. They explicitly did that. And the judge was like, all right, this letting him off the hook's already bad enough, but that's within your discretion, so I'll give it to you.
Right.
What I won't give you is leverage over a sitting mayor. I'm taking that away. And that was fun.
Yep.
And now Adams is planning on running as a Republican for re-election.
It's going to be an interesting mayor's race.
Yeah.
I feel bad for New York because they are continuously fucked in their mayor's races every time. Doesn't matter who wins. It's always bad.
It's always bad.
It's always bad. They have the fucking...
They have so many Republicans in Democrat clothing, and then their Republicans are actually just fucking assholes. Like, you know, and so they go from one to the other, and it's just like an asshole after an asshole.
It's just...
Like, de Blasio was like the best thing they'd gotten in a while, and it turns out he was an asshole.
Yeah,
right?
They all suck.
They all suck.
I mean, mayors often suck, but like...
Yeah.
You know, it's we talk shit about Chicago,
right?
And their mayors over the last 40, 50 decades.
I mean, you get the dailies being mayors for life,
but
like, you know, you get there's just a certain thing to that. I don't know.
They had a dynasty of shitty mayors in Chicago, but like
father son,
the variety of shitty mayors that New York has managed to have is kind of impressive.
Yeah,
like doesn't party affiliation doesn't matter.
No.
The first mayor I can remember is probably Ed Koch.
Yeah.
Who...
Yeah. Right? Now, Illinois beats them on governors.
Illinois beats everybody on governors.
Yeah, nobody gets prosecuted like an Illinois governor. Like, it's...
No one gets pardoned by Donald Trump like an Illinois governor.
Oh, Blagojevich.
Blagojevich.
With that hair. Oh, that fucking hair. I loved that hair. It was so bad. Selling a Senate seat and getting caught on tape. That's amazing.
I got fucking gold hair.
Yeah, so the New York mayor bullshit, so corrupt. All right, what else you got in your list of amazing things?
Let's see, where we
what
at
date
now?
you got?
My next one is we're always. You got anything before the 26th?
Before the 26th? Oh yeah, there's some things before the 26th.
Because the 26th was the first cabinet meeting.
Yep. Let's see, we've got. We get the Oval Office thing with the kid, with Musk's son.
Oh,
with him telling.
Yeah.
That was on the 11th, actually.
Yeah.
The fucking kid tells the president to shut up.
Shut up. You're not the real president.
And Musk is just giving press conferences from the Oval while Donald sits there nodding like a fucking child.
He's simultaneously in the Oval Office and a K-hole using his child as a human shield, giving a press conference.
Yep. And he's not the weakest, dumbest looking fuck in the room. Somehow. It was actually Trump. That happened.
I've never seen anyone simultaneously be at the Resolute desk and in a cuck chair all at once. But Donald Trump has managed.
He managed.
They're gonna have to move. They're gonna have to. It's gonna be the Oval Office somewhere. They're gonna put it in like the corner of a hotel room.
God, oh man, it's Didn't we also have? We had a bunch of. Trump is basically starts undermining the shit out of Ukraine in that period of time, and he's on calls with Putin. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, that weird joint appearance with Musk on Hannity.
Yes, that was bizarre.
Yeah,
that was bizarre. And I think if there's a through line to all of this is that it's all so stupid. I know I've brought this up basically every week that we've done this, but I'm still amazed at how dumb it all is.
In between, there's when Trump tweeted that "Long live the king" thing, and then called Zelensky a dictator, calls himself a king, and then calls another president who's not a dictator. It's amazing that it happened in the same fucking day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was February 19th.
Yeah. So
yeah, and your next one was
the 26th. We had the first full cabinet meeting.
Oh,
where everybody told Donald Trump how excited they were to be there and how awesome and super great he was, and then Musk just started rambling again.
Yep.
Incoherently. I don't even remember what Musk said. I just remember it was like all really fucking. Most of it didn't even make sense.
Didn't the rest of the cabinet get mad at him like after that one? Like that, there was a lot of reporting about they were angry.
That was kind of the beginning of some of the cracks.
Yeah.
But I do know exactly what we were doing on February 27th.
Mm-hmm.
February 27th, you and I were sitting here, and we were talking about the post-World War II order.
Oh, yes.
And its import. Because less than 24 hours later... was the Oval Office meeting with Zelensky.
Yep.
On the 28th.
That that absolute shit show. Yes, we had a whole episode on the importance of the global order.
Talked for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
And while that is happening,
during the premiere at noon the following day.
Oh, as soon as everybody gets to start watching, which everybody, I mean, come on, we know there's like 8 of you, but you, our loyal audience, just as you were getting that episode, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance had the biggest shit show in the Oval Office where they tried to bulldoze Zelensky into agreeing to a complete capitulation against Russia, and it turned into an argument in which J.D. Vance and Trump sounded like morons.
And what's amazing is that had that not happened, the rare earth minerals deal that they were trying to get signed probably would have happened later that day.
Probably, yeah.
Like the plan was to have the little press conference meeting and then sign the deal over lunch.
They just wanted to make him look like a bitch first.
Yeah.
And
they wanted to assert their dominance.
It's like, this guy's actually living under shellings and gunfire. And
he's not afraid of you, JD.
Right.
Like
he's afraid for his country, but not of you. Like
the least intimidating thing I can imagine is J.D. Vance trying to be intimidating.
Yeah. What intimidates Zelensky is the idea of Ukraine falling or his people continuing to suffer, right? That intimidates him. So
yeah, that's
if the rest of the world if like Europe stepped up and was like, we can provide everything the U.S. is providing, or at least most of it, keep fighting, he'd be like, okay.
But like I know full well that if Russia looked at Zelensky and said, if you resign right now, we'll leave, and they meant it, he would. Yeah.
As long as it came with security guarantees and the U.S. putting boots, because that's a Western power needs to put boots on the ground, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody wants to.
Not during the fighting, but as a security guarantee afterwards. Yeah. Right. A Western power needs to put boots and bases and and not
a
just peacekeeping force
not just a NATO ally. Like, you don't want it to just be Poland.
No. I mean, actually I do want it to be just Poland. but that's because
it would be less of a security guarantee at that point.
Yeah. Here's the thing is I think that the Russian government needs to go down hard, and boy, would I love to see Poland have a reason.
They've been waiting like 45, 50 years.
Yeah, they have.
And
they're like a pit bull, like fucking tearing at its chain against a fucking rabbit. They want in the fight.
They want it real fucking bad.
And I kind of want them to have it. I don't know. I mean, it's...
If they could have it without spillover.
Right.
And it not turning into like the end of the human species.
Maybe we've had a good run. We've had a run.
We've had a run. But here's the thing. I know we can do better.
Are you
So maybe
sure?
I'm sure we can do better than I am.
You said that with too much
I am
confidence.
positive we can do better than this.
That was such a dismissive confidence that I don't believe it.
I am positive we can do better than this.
I believe
know
that's
we can
just
do
what
better.
you tell yourself at night so you can sleep.
Nope. I know we can do better than this.
I think we've gotten as good as we can get. And maybe it's just time. I don't know. I mean, I don't believe that that's the case, but I think that might be the case. I consider it as a possibility.
How about this? We take out every billionaire first and see if that helps.
You know, I'm here for it. Yes, we could do that.
I mean, if we can save the planet and only taking out 3,500 motherfuckers globally,
Yeah.
you know, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make just to see, just to try, just figure out how it goes. Maybe it won't work, but it might. And I think that just the possibility is reason enough to do it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we missed there in late February?
What happened in late February?
The get all the trans people out of the military thing.
Yeah, which
That was late February.
yeah. The way, and I understand that one of the reasons they hyper focus on the trans community is because it's a small community, and most people in their daily lives probably don't know a trans person.
Yep, and don't really understand.
They don't understand it, so it's easy. It's an easy group to abstract.
Oh yeah.
And like dehumanize to the point that they're not thought of as like an actual group of people. Like they're this weird thing that exists that we don't understand, because it's the number of trans people that you and I know is unusually large
Compared to the rest of the population.
Compared to the rest of the population for not being trans ourselves.
Yeah.
The number of trans people we know is
It's the combination
Very
of
high.
our political affiliation and our locality and the urban nature of our living.
Yeah.
Right. You piece those things together, we have a disproportionate
and the
number of trans people that we know.
the industry that we're both involved in.
Yes. Is
As weird and libertarian as some of them get, it is I would say it is compared to most industries
a welcoming space.
a welcoming and inclusive space.
Yeah. Not.
Some places more than others.
Yes. Like,
This morning at one point I was sitting at a different kava bar, and I had three white dudes in their late 30s engaging in one of the dumbest conversations I've ever heard three white dudes in their late 30s engage in about politics. One of them was speculating that the left, because they're rabid and out of control, were going to do anything they could to assassinate Trump. And he expected it to be a mass casualty event in the millions.
In the millions.
In the millions. He's like, they're gonna do something real big, and it's gonna take out like 1 million people at once just to get rid of him. I'm like, what the fuck are you? What?
I mean, look. Here's the thing.
I didn't say anything. I just sat there and drank my kava, and I'm like, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my goddamn life.
If I could drop a nuke on DC, like I'd understand. It's appealing.
It was weird
But-
to hear them essentially fantasize
Right.
about 1 million people dying to take out their boy. It was because it was like, you can hear in their voice. There was that like, if they do it, we get to like run wild. Like there was that excitement.
There's an obsession.
There was that excitement to it. It's like, we get to retaliate if they do that. Like they couldn't wait.
Such a population that's itching for excuses.
Yeah.
Like it fascinates me because they want justifications to be able to unleash that like vengeance, that rage, that violence that they want to see. Now, most of them are too cowardly to do it themselves. But they want the state to do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, they want the apparatuses and the system to exert this violence for them, and they're obsessed with it. They're itching for it. It fascinates me.
It's really wild.
Wow. Ooh.
And what's always fucking.
I know
like,
where you were sitting. That's
it was right at the far end, right next to the register, like that last seat next to the register. Yeah.
I've had some exceptionally dumb
but the worst
conversations
part is,
at
and
those two locations.
this is what's always frustrating about that, when that sort of situation happens, is like, the dude I was sitting next to, who was one of the three guys involved in the conversation, like, we were having like a pleasant time sitting next to each other up until then.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden I'm hearing the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life
No.
come out of this motherfucker's mouth. And I'm like, why you gotta like dehumanize yourself to me like that? Please
you
don't.
ruined it.
You ruined it.
You were cool.
You were a decent dude. Like you weren't cool.
Well, I mean, all right,
But, like,
we were cool.
We were, yeah.
Right, like
I
things-
had no problems with you, and now oof.
Ooh, I wish that we had to kill 1 million people, and you were one of them.
Like it's
Right,
just,
you know,
it blows me away.
Man, your fantasy. Like, if it happens, I hope you're in it, you idiot. Oh my god.
This is one of the reasons why when I sit there, I keep my sunglasses on the entire time so they can't see fully my face.
You don't want
Because I would have been saying a lot with just my eyes
right, like
if they hadn't been covered.
I have a I do that there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what did you just say? Like, you just what? Oh my god. All right, what else we got on our fucking fine list of terrible things that the United States is doing?
So, well, March 4th, we got his joint address to Congress. That yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 That I am embarrassed the Democrats didn't walk out of.
That's right. And they didn't. They one guy was arrested, which
One guy decided to not be a little bitch.
yep, I think they all should have done it. Like they couldn't stop them all. They should have made that such a spectacle. Like it should have been impossible for Trump to continue that speech.
If the Democratic Party
Make
would
an
just
8-hour speech.
If the Democratic Party, it was the longest, like, wasn't
I
it the
mean,
longest speech joint speech to
Right.
Congress?
But make it an 8-hour speech
Yeah.
by making it impossible for him to continue without them having to shut down order and drag the guy out.
It is shocking how popular the Democrats could be if they offered any, like, visible negative response to this, like, loudly.
That's
And just
everyone is saying they want them to be angry.
Yeah.
Like they are losing so much support, not because normies in the suburbs are like, I just want things to be normal. No.
I mean,
they're losing support because people
everybody understands
aren't
that,
hearing
like,
them scream.
yeah, everybody understands, except for, like, some, like, really contrarian tanky types. Everybody understands that they don't have the political power to, like, do anything substantive right now.
Yeah.
All anybody wants is them to look like they're angry.
Right. And
Look like they're willing to fight back. Look like if we get to 2026,
right. Like,
and we vote for them, that maybe they'll do something.
and the places that they are doing things, they're not loud about it where they should be. Like on the state level, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are states that are suing the administration, right? The party isn't crowing about it. The Congress people from those states should be talking about how their state has sued the administration and that they support their state governor, right? Like I have spoken with Gretchen Whitmire and we have, I think it's Gretchen, I don't remember.
It's Gretchen, yeah.
Yeah. I have spoken with her and we have been talking about this lawsuit and I'm happy that Michigan is suing over, right? And like, I fully support this. And when you send me back in 2 years, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, we need the American people to understand that this is bad. Like, get behind this shit and fight. Be loud. Be obstructionist. Utilize every parliamentary trick in the book. Like, do what Mitch McConnell did, which was make it a mess.
Be crude about it.
Be crude about it. They're crude.
People respect that. You get it. I guarantee you, any Democrat that gets up there and says, "This is a fucking outrage."
Yeah.
Those 3 words.
Are you on the 3rd of March, by the way?
I'm not there yet.
Which day were you on?
Well, actually, yeah, the joint address was the 4th.
4th, okay. You know what happened the day before?
What happened the day before?
We paused help military aid to Ukraine. That was the day that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the escalation between him and Zelensky over whether or not Zelensky should say thank you, Daddy, which was gross. It was stupid.
Weird and dumb.
But yeah, that escalation continued. And then the next day we get the dumbest speech in fucking presidential history. And
it was long.
And Democrats did what they always do and were feckless for the most part, except a handful of them one of them did the right thing.
One of them did the right thing. It should have been all of them.
Yeah. Waving up little signs. Fuck you.
And like,
all right, brief moment of technical difficulties there, but we're back.
we're back.
We're back. And the puppy wandered and knocked over our green screen. Very cute. All right.
Someday
so,
I'm gonna get a pull down one.
that would be great. That'd be.
Pull it down, shoot it back up.
You're just gonna turn your whole living room into a studio, aren't you?
I mean, I have plans for doing other things in here, like not just this. So yeah, I'd like to start my own independent channel that just focuses on music.
Though that whole back area of your apartment would be.
I am working on cleaning that room out.
Good.
And I might just move everything in there and make it like a studio.
Nice. That would be pretty cool.
Move all the amps and guitars and everything in there.
It's cooler back there.
Yeah, because it doesn't get direct sunlight.
Right. That's what I was
the same
thinking
way
about.
out.
Is like this area here gets so much direct sun just hitting
This
it.
fucking door wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the stupid signs. The Democrats, they spent their time not
I don't say
fighting.
I understand. I can understand it as a tactic, like if you're thinking in 20 years when history books are being written, like it is a visual representation that this was not normal.
Here's the thing.
But
you could have had the stupid signs and then still one at a time gotten dragged out for disrupting it.
yeah, true.
Right. And if you had done that, the history books would have written about that day.
Yeah,
That
and
day-
you would have been the focus of that
Right.
day, not him.
Yeah. The Democratic Party would have been like 20 years from now, the Democratic Party would have been known
And
for
this-
the day that they completely stopped the normal operation of business during a State of the Union
This
speech.
is the problem with having the median age of the party, as far as elected officials go, be so fucking high.
God, they're stupid.
Because
old.
they still act like it's the 80s in so many ways. Like they're Tip O'Neill and he's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, we're gonna go out for whiskey after this and be friends.
It's
and,
after
and-
5. We're
and-
friends
yeah.
after 5.
And that
Tip
used
says
to
we're
work.
friends after 5.
That used to work.
Yeah. It
Used to be there.
1982 that worked.
It wasn't personal because one side, while conservative and wrong, was not deranged and evil.
Yeah. At least, not to the degree that they are now. They towards minorities, they were still bad, but
They were deranged and evil, but they still like fundamentally believed in the idea that like they were going to do what they thought was best for the country.
Right.
Even if they were wrong. The impulse was like, this is what we think is best.
Yep.
As opposed to now where it's like I think that they genuinely hate every institution in the United States of America and most of its people.
But yeah, so March 4th, day 44. My namesake, Al Green. You did right. The rest of the Democrats.
Oh, that's right. I forgot it was Al Green. Yeah.
Yep. The rest of the Democrats, you fucked up, as you keep doing. Stop it.
Except for those of you who didn't show up at all. That's fine.
Right. AOC boycotting it? Great. She was like, I watched it from home because it's my job to know what he said,
Yeah.
but I wasn't going to go.
And she was on TikTok, like live streaming her thoughts.
Yep.
As she did it.
That's
Engaging with voters.
yeah.
Her constituents.
Like, either option. Don't go. Disrupt it.
That was,
Those were options.
I believe that was right around the time she started asking her constituents the question of why did so many of you vote for me and vote for him?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting question that needs to be asked.
I mean, she got a lot of dumb answers. Some of the answers were absolutely.
But one of the things that became apparent is that like people just didn't think.
Yeah, like swing voters. Like the thing that does shock me about them is that their brains are basically pudding.
It is one of the problems of our system is that we rely on the least informed.
Yeah.
To be the tiebreaker in everything.
I hate to break up our thing, but did you see? Speaking of, did you see that focus group? The 12 Biden to Trump voters.
No, I have a feeling I would hate it.
Yeah, first time Trump voters, right? Mm-hmm. Three of the 12 said directly that they regret their vote.
Okay, that's good. At least
That's good.
At least you know you're wrong.
A few of the others were unsure. They had just it was like Swiss cheese brain. One was like has a immigrant wife who's going through the process of coming here, right? And it's like, well, it's actually like things have sped up a little bit under Trump, but like I think she's going to be safe from deportation, and I don't believe that he's going to be as bad on immigrants. Like, oh, you're in for a rude awakening. But like one of his motivations was apparently that things were moving too slow under Biden to bring his wife here. Like, yeah, like.
Yeah, and I think people should just be able to come.
Yeah. And she's from Africa. So, like, it was not, yeah. And they just had these really dumb, like, decisions, like, tariffs, immigration policy. Like, they didn't believe him on immigration, things like that.
The number of people who say they didn't think he would do it for, like, the policy proposals that he was most emphatic about doing. It's weird. Like, and I think part of that problem is that we've spent the last 40, 50 years talking about all politicians as if they are all lying all the time, no matter what.
Right.
And that's just become like
misattributing
part of the cultural zeitgeist.
We have misattributed the concept that a proposal, right, if it doesn't happen, becomes a lie. Right.
Student loan forgiveness is a great example. Like, Biden tried multiple times in multiple ways to get it done.
Correct.
He couldn't get Congress to go along with it.
And then when he did what he could do, which was a big one,
the Supreme Court curb stomped it.
Right.
And now, look what's going to happen. They're going to start garnishing people's wages.
Yep.
To collect their student loans. And the monthly payments for people who have been paying all along are going to skyrocket.
Yep. And people who say that there are people out there who say that Biden lied about that. It's like, no, that's not a lie. Like, he said he was going to try to do a thing.
If you try and fail to do something, you still tried to do it.
Right. Like, politicians will all lie a little bit sometimes, but most of them, they plan to do what they say they're going to do.
Historically, it's something like 75% of campaign promises are at least attempted to be kept.
Right.
On average?
Yes.
At the presidential level, anyway.
Yeah, 75%. They at least have a
genuinely try.
Genuinely try. They craft a legislation. They sign an executive order. Something. Right. Like, now lots of these things fail. That's because we have a system of representative government and democracy. Right.
And like, I think part of the reason that people aren't more upset and concerned about the really authoritarian moves Trump has been making these last 100 days is that they do not understand the process of how legislation happens and what the president's job is, and they believe that every president has had that level of power anyway already.
Never.
They don't understand
it.
They don't get that it's not. You're not just made king for 4 years.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Sure?
You don't rule by fiat. Like it's not just by decree that you get what you want. Like, oh, he didn't do it. It's like there's a legislative process. The legislative branch is the most important branch of the three branches of government.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
And
you read the Constitution. That's very clear.
Yes, it's supposed to be the most powerful branch.
Yeah.
And then the most, like, I would say in some ways important would be the courts in their ability to like keep things constrained within the law.
Yeah.
And then the one that is the most effective would be the administration.
Right.
Like, it's you've got these three arms. One wills law into being, right? And wills the money into existence. Another one that makes sure that that's all done right and executes it, right? And puts all those pieces together, right? And then another one that says whether or not the other two got it right and what the contours of what they're doing are supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to function, right? That way there's a balance, a separation of powers, a checks and balances system. And Americans just don't get it.
I remember learning this in the 6th grade.
Well, I'm saying, but I think most Americans learned it in the 6th grade, and they just completely forgot about it.
Although they will tell you they were never taught.
Yeah.
There's something that frustrates me about Americans. It's the way they didn't pay attention in school and then say I wasn't taught this.
And also wanting to, like, the conservative proposition these days is basically like a constitutional right never to know anything that you didn't learn in high school. Yeah. Like anything that they learned that any knowledge that came up after high school, they feel like they have a constitutional right not to know.
Well, we've sort of demonized the idea of learning.
God, it's stupid.
Like, our anti-intellectualism is absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
And it is, That is the root cause of every problem we have in this country right now.
So, that's, God, that was day 44.
We've only got 66 left to go.
Let's zip through them as quick as we can.
56. All right.
What's your next date?
My next date is March 15th when Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act.
All right. So, before that, we got the Columbia bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Columbia
University that starts.
Fucking cowards.
The $400 million grants there, and then Columbia Caves. So, yeah, that was some bullshit. God, this is so bad. Like, every time I'm just scrolling through this. We almost got the government shut down, but Schumer.
Fucking Schumer. Got
together, 11 Democrats to save the day?
It'll look bad for us.
So everything indicated that the Republicans and Trump were going to get the blame for it.
Could we get anybody under the age of 60 in any fucking position of power in that goddamn party? Is that too fucking much to ask?
All I know is that if somebody does strangle Chuck Schumer to death, and I'm not saying you should do it because that might be illegal, but I'm going to say that if you do strangle Chuck Schumer to death and you choke the life out of him, do two things for me. One, tape it so I can see the life leave his eyes, because I want to see the life leave his eyes when it happens.
That's fair.
Again, I'm not saying you should, but if you do me this favor and film it so I can watch, because I will be very, very happy to see that.
Aroused even.
Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah, for sure. And two, give it to me in person, because I'll buy you a beer.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's worth it.
I'll take you for a drink.
It's worth it.
I mean, you're probably going to prison, but
it'll be a really tasty last drink.
But you and I can have a drink together before you're arrested. It'll be great. And I want to see that video, please. All right. Sorry.
So,
murder fantasies of Chuck Schumer aside.
The invocation of the Alien Enemies Act.
Oh.
Against a country that we're not at war with, and therefore the invocation should be null and void.
Yeah.
And that began the real downward spiral of our terrible immigration policies for the last month and a half.
Yep.
And sending hundreds of people to a Salvadoran death camp where they will spend the rest of their lives until they die.
Yeah.
Without charge or conviction or even an accusation of criminality beyond illegally being in the United States of America as an undocumented person, which is a misdemeanor and a civil infraction. It would be like sending someone to a death camp for a speeding ticket in terms of proportionality. But they're brown, so nobody cares, or not enough people care. I shouldn't say nobody cares. A lot of people care.
Did you know in there Trump advocated and tried to push to get Mel Gibson's gun rights restored?
Yeah, he fired the person who wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He had the person who wouldn't wouldn't restore Mel. And I don't know if people remember those Gibson tapes, those voicemail messages he left.
He was convicted of domestic violence.
I beat the shit out of his. I can't remember if they were married or if they were just dating, but he beat the ever living fuck out of her.
Yeah.
And
there's so many racial slurs while doing it.
Left one of the most racist tirades I've ever heard in my life. Talking about how he hopes she was gang raped by black men.
Yeah.
But
he did not use the word black men,
in less friendly terms.
Yeah. He did not use friendly words. No. There was a lot.
That was the hardest of ours.
Yes.
He went with the hardest of ours.
It was so hard I thought he was a pirate. It was just like an R.
But yeah, he wanted his gun rights back, and the person who said no was fired for it.
Yep. What else we got? Oh man.
Well, March 24th was Signalgate.
Oh, Signalgate.
Signalgate, which should have had way more repercussions by now than just Mike Walls and his deputy resigning.
Yeah, we talked about that in the beginning. They got rid of one guy. And apparently, it was all because his phone auto-populated the contact information when he got forwarded an email.
Yeah.
That's how that happened. It's amazing. This is...
I like how we found out
This is the OPSEC of the people in charge of our national security establishment. Now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes, everyone involved in that group text should have been forced to resign.
Yeah.
And there are at least 3 or 4 that should have been prosecuted.
Like, it's...
For, like, national security law violations.
Yep. Oh, in the meantime, in the middle of there, we got the attack on the private law firms.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Which is going to have the knock-on effect of now that these law firms have agreed to give the administration all this free legal help.
Isn't one of them still suing?
Yeah.
Yeah, one's still suing.
But the ones that have agreed, that means that like they can't represent anybody who might wish to sue the government because it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Because they're working for the government. So the most powerful law firms in the country, the ones you would definitely want to use to sue the government if the government wronged you, now no longer can represent you.
Well, okay, actually, that's not entirely the case. As long as they have a wall, a firewall between attorneys, right? Different attorneys can work on different cases, even inside the same law firm, as long as they keep the staff separate. Which in these big firms, that's easy, because they have a lot of competing clients,
right?
Like
But will they?
Yeah, but will
With
they?
This,
probably
against
not.
this administration?
Because the rest of this is about threatening them not to do anything that would upset Trump.
Yeah.
So they may sue the government, but only at times when the administration is fine with it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're trying to stop an agency from, like enacting a regulation that he hasn't been able to quite get rid of yet.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah. Like if somebody doesn't like an environmental regulation,
right?
They'll be able to sue.
Yeah. But as far as like anything that would embarrass or hurt Trump's agenda, no, they're going to be under his thumb.
We had the beginning of the dissolution of the Department of Education.
Yes.
On the 20th, March 20th.
Yeah, they announced a couple of days earlier that it would be like 1,300 people, and then they just went further after that.
Yeah, and that's... I don't think it can be underestimated, the impacts of doing away with the Department of Education. People don't understand what it does. People definitely have this idea that the Department of Education writes the curriculums for all the schools, and that's just DOE's teaching my kids. One, they basically make sure that students' civil rights are protected.
Yep.
Under various civil rights laws, Title IX, shit like that. They're the ones who make sure that 504 plans and IEPs are funded.
Yep.
That's gone.
They coordinate educational standards. They don't demand them, but they
and
coordinate them.
When it comes to the IEPs and the 504 plans, you can say well, the states will take care of that. A lot of states have their own legal requirements for those plans to be put in place, but they rely on the Department of Education and the federal government to fund those.
Right.
So you're going to have a situation where schools are going to have these state requirements that they can't fulfill because they don't have the money to do it.
Yep.
Which will just probably encourage states to go back to what they did before the Department of Education was a thing and just not educate those children.
Yep. So it's basically just cutting 10% of school funding across the country.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
And it's not like the schools have a lot of money to begin with.
Right. And, here's a fun one, though. Same day, the Labor Department announced it was no longer going to enforce the $17.75 an hour minimum wage for federal contractors established by Biden, dropping it down to $13.30. So a wage cut. And federal contractors such as janitors and food service workers with most significant impact in states that adhere to the federal minimum wage is $7.25. So just a big wage cut for contractors for the federal government. That's nice of them.
That's nice.
That was that same day.
Nice. It's we're doing great. We're doing great. It's been.
And then this is the day that Columbia conceded the list of Trump's demands. I was on the 21st, so next day. Isn't that
Jesus
nice?
Christ.
Yeah. Oh, that's all. The 21st is also when they pulled all the security clearances for Biden, Harris, Liz Cheney, Blinken, Adam Kinzinger, Letitia James, all of Biden's relatives.
How many of these people even had security clearance to pull?
Of the list, except for a couple of Biden's relatives, almost all of them, because they needed them for other pieces of work, right? Even the New York Attorney General sometimes works on cases with the feds.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, so they pulled that security clearance. Yeah. What's next?
Well, I guess the next big thing, the thing that we're going to be dealing with for a long, long, long time. April 2nd, Liberation Day.
Oh, Liberation
The day that Trump debuted his ChatGPT, I shouldn't say ChatGPT, Grok-generated list of global tariffs.
Yeah.
In all of their deranged splendor. Which caused the stock market to plummet, the bond market to collapse, and was suspended 7 days later.
Yep. And this is the beginning of the end of our economy.
Or any economy as we knew it. Like,
it's bad.
It's bad.
Ports. Oh my God.
And here's one of the things.
Fucking huge amounts.
One of the things, and this is why this administration is ultimately going to fail. One of the things that every previous fascist government had done is they had always been coming into power at a time of like economic turmoil.
Right.
They would walk into a really bad economy and they would clamp down hard, and that would cause short-term gains that made people feel comfortable, which allowed them to do more.
They are in the middle of, right now, the inverse, where we had a vibe session because people didn't feel good about the economy. So it created a shadow bad economy. Right?
Yeah.
Like a illusionarily bad economy where certain parts of the economy kind of sucked.
Yeah,
right?
there were some necessary goods were too expensive.
Right.
And that was something that Harris had addressed on the campaign trail with greedflation.
Yeah.
Where there were a lot of companies that were seeing unfathomable record profits quarter over quarter, while prices skyrocketed well beyond what they should have been.
And while the greedflation was actually a very small part of the inflation, right? Like, it was notable, and it was at least something that could have been done something about, right? Because the rest of the inflation was just what it was. Now,
and it was slowing.
Yeah, and it was slowing. But what we were going into was, again, like a stable, strong economy with a bunch of things that were saying that we were going to have, 2.1% GDP growth.
Despite all of the problems we felt here, it was the envy of the world.
Right. And it was all improving, right? So it was not...
And we've only kept improving.
It was not economic chaos. It wasn't a massive downturn. It was actually a good economy with too high of inflation. That was it. Like, and it was actually just the effects of too high of inflation a year earlier.
And then a diaper-wearing shit gibbon shot it in the face.
Yep. Because this diaper-wearing shit gibbon is doing everything he can to actually just ruin the fundamentals of the economy that were doing well.
Yeah. Did you see Howard Lutnick talking about his dream for the future American economy? Where it's like, you'll work in a factory, and then your kids will work in that factory, and then your kids' will all work in that same factory.
It's like we're going back to factory towns?
What? No. No.
The dream is that there's the plant in town, and that's where you just work?
They're just out here being like, you will be serfs, and you will fucking like it.
Yeah, no, fuck you. Like, we're done with this shit. And for those Americans who aren't done with this shit, get over yourself. We're done with this shit.
Look.
Like...
This is my message for this. Well, now that we're through the first 100 days, this is my message to America.
All right.
If after this first 100 days you still support this administration, one of three things is necessarily true about you. You are unfathomably stupid, you are irredeemably evil, or you are both.
Yeah.
One of those three things is necessarily true. Because if you can't look at the last 100 days and understand that it's a fucking problem, there is something deeply, profoundly wrong with you.
Yep.
Like, at your core, as a human being, you are fucked. And you're taking the rest of us with us.
All right. Let's get these last items out of the way so we can close this up, because this is a long episode.
This is a very long
episode.
It's going to be like a 3.5 hour long episode. It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So let's knock out these last few. Right. What do we got on your list? Is that it? Or do you got more? We have Abrego Garcia, obviously.
Oh, yeah. The
Wisconsin judge being arrested.
The Wisconsin judge being arrested.
Booker giving the longest speech in Senate history and filibustering. Thank you, Cory Booker, for that.
We've got Trump's first big foreign trip to the Pope's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was the only person who violated the dress code.
Yep, he also got snubbed while Zelensky got a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love seeing that. And then we got...
Then, to reiterate, J.D. Vance killed the Pope.
Yep, J.D. Vance killed the Pope. There are lots of other terrible stories, but the stock market has been doing exceedingly badly since his term took over.
Yeah.
The last couple of days, he has been blaming it on Biden when he was taking credit for it at the end of Biden's administration and into his first couple of weeks.
He was taking credit for it in January of last year because he was like, they're so convinced I'm going to win. The stock market's up because they know how great it's going to be when I take over in a year.
And now he's blaming it on Biden, even though this is all clearly his mess. Everybody warned that this would happen.
Assuming that he is still alive in 3.5 years, when we're coming up on 2028, he will still be blaming Joe Biden for every problem we have. He's
also signaling that he's probably going to try to run again. And if that happens,
it's unquestionably unconstitutional.
Yeah.
The 22nd Amendment says you can't be elected president twice. The 12th Amendment says that if you're constitutionally eligible to be president, you can't be vice president. Those are the only two ways, theoretically, he could do it.
Yeah.
Either has to violate the 22nd Amendment, violate the 12th Amendment. Technically, both.
I guess, in theory, he could be made... No, is the Speaker also having a constitutional exception? Maybe?
He'd have to be voted Speaker of the House and then have both the President and Vice President resign.
Yep.
So what that would necessarily mean is that a Republican who is not Donald Trump would have to win the presidency and be willing to do that.
Yeah, that's a... I'm just wondering. I was just trying to game out the theoretical possibility.
This is also assuming that
could they run on a platform of that? We're going to do this constitutional chicanery.
Well, this is also, of course, assuming that the 79-year-old man who eats nothing but McDonald's and Adderall is going to survive until 2028.
I hope he doesn't survive until tomorrow. And I say that every day.
Every day I wake up with the hope that today is the day.
Mm-hmm. Pope Francis... It shouldn't have been you, comparatively speaking.
No. You're as good as a pope could get.
Yeah, you were as good as a pope could get.
I have problems with the Catholic Church, and I always will. But like, as far as the papacy goes, I don't see how the Catholic Church could do better.
Yeah. And unfortunately, no. Instead, you died, and we get stuck with J.D. Vance and Trump. So I hope we get Biden as Pope.
Yeah,
Pope Biden.
Pope Corn Pop.
Pope Corn Pop, the first. Smooth be his leg hair. He had the smooth hairs. So, on that note, this administration has been a shit show for the last 100 days. Mm-hmm. We are exhausted in following it, but it is what we do. And, so I need a way for you to give us all of your money. Have you figured out what we're going to do with that yet? Are we going to do a buy me a coffee? What are we setting up?
We need to set something up. We need to sit down and figure that out.
What we need is for you to give us all of your money.
Yeah.
So we can...
I mean, if you want to just show up at the bar, I'll take cash.
I mean, cash would be nice. But, like, sending us money to allow us to expand our ever-growing show and then eventually blow up that Tesla, because we need to do that.
We do. Yeah. We do. I mean,
that
they might be getting cheap soon.
Right? Oh. Speaking of which, that was another 70% decline in Tesla sales.
71. Like it was like a 71% drop in revenue.
That's ouch.
Since January 20th.
Ouch.
Like,
and only profitable because they're selling carbon credits. If they didn't have a regulatory, like, gimme, like, welfare from the federal government, they would have been broke.
That does remind me before we go. They did the proposed tariff scheme for auto manufacturers. The way it would be any auto manufacturer where not below 85% of the final assembly was done in the United States would be subject to tariffs as if they were a foreign entity. Exactly one car company in the world meets the criteria.
I knew it was coming.
Exactly one. And I'll let you guess which one it is.
Is it run by a fucking pompous walrus of a shit gibbon who is shaped like a trash bag, a full trash bag?
Yes, and he has a crippling ketamine addiction.
I'm sure it is. Oh, Ilmo. Every day I hope that today is the day for you too. And on that note, I think it's time. What do you think?
It's time.
All right. Well, this has been The Grift. Give us all your money.
Until next week, farewell.